try this. Oop. There we go. Maybe. So I did finish the debate, but my crappy computer, as I feared, overheated and shut down, and so I was unable to stream and do his show at the same time. So we just did it there, and he's going to send me the MP4, and I'll try to upload it at some point. We'll wait a couple minutes to see if people come in, and we'll discuss how the debate went. To be honest, I thought I did very well, but I would give myself an 8 out of 10. I was really low volume on his end. Oh, that sucks. But I'm glad I was yelling. By the way, I could see his chat by the nature of how he had it set up. Why is this guy yelling? Boy, there's some real intellectual giants there as well, let me tell you. Raise my volume here. Yeah, I mean, the problem was there wasn't a... It says I'm not connected to Rumble. That's strange. Anyways, the problem was I don't think that he was just speaking in broad generalities and wasn't focused. And what it's indicative of is, of course, as a Biden supporter and more importantly, a Trump hater, you're going to be like, I need smoking gun proof. And again, it's difficult because I don't give a shit about Joe Biden as much as I care about a two-tiered system. So when I show that this clearly shows evidence of a double standard, all of a sudden, he's like, I don't know anything about that. That wasn't really the topic. So we'll wait a couple minutes to get some more people in. So I do apologize for the tech issues. Again, last night, I don't know, Magnad. I don't know what the deal is. I can't figure it out. I've taken the damn thing in the shop. I thought it totally bricked at one point, but they got it up and running, the shop. I've tried everything. I tore the damn thing apart and put the geothermal. I put the thermal paste on because I thought that was the problem. I've messed with drivers, uninstalled Windows, reinstalled Windows. I tried to turn down the quality on OBS because I thought maybe that was doing it. I went through tutorials and I just can't figure it out. I have a laptop fan, so I'm using a laptop fan as we speak that's turned up to the maximum level. And it is, in fact, blowing. So I just don't know. Maybe it's my bias. I don't know. That's all Greek to me. I don't know what that shit means. So, it's a pain in the ass. Now, last night I talked to Let's Be Frank, but that's different. That's not a debate, and Frank's a friend of mine. And if my computer crashes, no big deal. Right? But when I make a commitment to debate someone, and I know they're streaming it, even if they're not streaming it, but them streaming it is even more of a reason, I want to follow through with that commitment. And unfortunately, we talked last week. I was like, yeah, I could do the debate tonight. Like, whatever day it was that we started talking, Thursday, Friday, whatever it was. And he's like, well, what about, like, Saturday? And I was like, I can't do that. And so the earliest that we were both available was Wednesday. And so I'm usually home Wednesday nights, but the coworker was unable to come in. Maybe it's OBS. It could be. But so unfortunately, that meant I still wanted to do the stream. I didn't want him to have to reschedule it because he'd already put up for days. He had the upcoming on this night. So I thought it was important to do it. So, I would have had a computer that wasn't crashing, and I would have had my sources. Some of the stuff that I was talking about I didn't have right in front of me. Only because I knew what would happen. If I had a bunch of windows open, it would crash. And sure enough, I only had like 4 tabs open, and it still crashed. So then after that, yeah, I saw that link, and I got to be honest, I might have to admit that I was wrong, because I don't think that link says what I was saying that it was, unless you have a different one, or I didn't see it. It says that he never discussed business. But I said that it said he never met any of his business partners. And that technically appears to be wrong. What they've changed it to is we don't discuss business to my dad wasn't involved in business. So I will take the L on that particular point. Now, it's still bullshit. You sitting around at dinners with them, and the Tony Bablinski testimony blows that out of the water, where Tony Bobulinski talked business with Joe Biden. But I'll take that L. I will. I said that twice. He did lie, but I was wrong in what he said specifically. I don't think it changes the direction of the debate, but I was incorrect. That's true. And I'll admit that. So let's talk about the debate. In general, as I stated from the outset, that my problem with this situation is the evidentiary two-tiered system. What's up, Easy Breezy? Thank you. And he is not prepared to have that discussion, right? And the problem is, you can even kind of tell at the end where he's talking about prosecutorial discretion. The problem is, you could look at anything in a vacuum and be like, well, maybe. But when you look at the impeachments and all the investigations into Trump and how they've lowered the bar, it's clear that nowhere near that's occurring by these institutions, the FBI or elsewhere. It's clear that's what's happening. It's self-evident to anyone who's remotely paying attention. The focus on the impeachment, I get it. I guess I didn't look at it that way. When I say that the impeachment was going well, what I was talking about it was the hearing itself. I wasn't necessarily saying, because here's the end game. They probably won't impeach him because there'll be enough Republicans that'll say, no. And even if they did, there's zero chance of him being removed, convicted in the Senate. When I said going well, what I meant was, it's showing shit that's really bad for Biden. Tony Bobulinski's testimony did that, and so did Devon Archer's. And so when he says, basically, I think it's a nothing burger, I'm like, I disagree. I'll talk to you about it. The reason that it's not a nothing, and this is what's difficult. Is it true that I could be meandering and I talk fast and loud and a lot? Yeah, that's all true, right? But the problem is, when you say, no, we can only talk about the testimony, why is it damning? The reason it's damning requires some context. The reason it's damning isn't because it proves, hey, I saw Joe Biden doing this. That's not why it's damning. The reason I say it's damning is because the central argument to justify Joe Biden's quid pro quo is disproven by Devon Archer's testimony. It's clear when it comes to the Burisma situation. Right? So again, the story is quite simple. Hunter, we'll get into some of his defenses here. Hunter basically gets hired because he's a Biden. Goes to work for a company, and these, okay, we'll take that part of it. Here's parts that Pondering admitted. Hunter Biden worked there, and his father's administration said that it was a corrupt company, that the owner was corrupt. Burisma was telling Hunter to reach out to his contacts in the United States for the purpose of closing down investigations. Hunter did reach out, and Devon Archer thinks it was directly to his dad. Then a few days later, his dad gets on an airplane and gives a quid pro quo, which works and fires this prosecutor, and then it massively benefits Burisma. That's the facts as we know them. The problem is that he's not going to admit how bad. He has to be like, well, it's not that bad. And these are the same people that will tell you Trump deserved to be impeached over a fucking phone call. Same people. Let me ask you all, outlining that situation. Corrupt company, vice president's son works for them, vice president uses $1 billion of your tax dollars for a quid pro quo, fires the prosecutor that's allegedly looking into your son's company, and then the investigations are dropped against your son's company. If the defense to that is no comment, is that impeachable? If there's no defense, I just refuse to comment on it, would that be impeachable? I offer no defense. I think that's clearly impeachable. I think that's clearly unacceptable. We cannot, probably, we can't have a system. We cannot have it, because if that's allowed, if you're like, nah, I wouldn't impeach, what would the limit be? There would be no limit. You could do anything. You could use tax dollars for anything and just be like, I don't even have to defend myself. I won't be impeached. If the standard of impeachment is a phone call with Trump and Zelensky, that is impeachable, how would this not rise to the level of impeachment? So then if we agree with that, once we say, okay, that would be impeachable, then if the next step up is, but he didn't say no comment, they gave justification. Okay, but if we could prove that the justification or the defense that they've given is incorrect, then we're back to square one. They have no defense. So what's the defense? It went pretty good, Easy Gamer. I thought so. I would give myself an 8 to an 8.5 out of 10. I thought I won it pretty convincingly, but I would have liked to have won it even more convincingly, so some of the people in Pondering's audience would have said, oh shit, this is really bad, we're trying to defend this sticker. It was almost there. But I've had better, I would say. The central defense, 8.2, okay. The central defense has always been, no, Shokin wasn't investigating. And this is where the hang-up was, where we spent probably a solid portion of the time. He's still defaulting back to, well, Shokin wasn't investigating. Now, I've long since argued that that's not the case. Viktor Shokin has testified under oath that that's not true. We see newspaper articles showing that he was re-seizing assets in February before he was fired. But what we saw with Devon Archer's testimony, which to me was easily the most important part of his testimony, because that's central to the defense. That's absolutely central. Because if the story is, Hunter Biden works for Burisma. Burisma tells Hunter, reach out to your contacts in the United States, wink, wink, your father, and get these investigations closed. And there's an active investigation. Viktor Shokin's investigating. And then Joe Biden goes out of his way to force the firing of Shokin, and then the investigation gets closed. That's even more damning. Yeah, I agree, Aftershock, but still, I could have been better. So that's central to the defense, and that's the defense that people have made. The people that tried to look into this situation and get into the details and have tried to defend, they make two arguments. One, Shokin wasn't investigating, and second, it wasn't Joe Biden's idea. It wasn't his idea. Those are the two arguments. Pondering tried to give some more. This timeline argument is the exact same argument I've had with Pisco, which I don't even understand what they're trying to say with this. It goes into it wasn't Joe Biden's idea, but it makes no sense, which we'll get to. Yeah, that's exactly right, Alley Cat. He was like, well, Devon Archer said, that he never heard Joe Biden influence policy because of this. No shit. Why would you? That's simple. If my dad was president and I'm working for a corrupt company trying to get my dad to change the rules, I ain't gonna fucking tell Aftershock, even if he's there. I ain't gonna tell no one. You think Joe Biden would have been happy? By the way, Dad, I just told everyone in this board reading that we're bribing you. You think that's... Of course not. Now, the hang-up he has on the first defense is the idea that Shokin wasn't investigating is, I still think he wasn't investigating. He doesn't respond to any of the thing I say why he was actually investigating. But Zlochevsky thinking there was an investigation doesn't matter if there wasn't an investigation. That's nonsensical. That would be the equivalent of saying this. Well, Trump fired Comey because he thought Comey was investigating him, but it turns out Comey wasn't investigating him. So therefore, no harm, no foul. Of course not. Yeah, easy breezy. Thanks, man. Yeah, the debate wasn't even on my channel because my computer crashed, so I apologize. I'll get it uploaded. Of course not. First off, who do you think would have a better idea if there was active Ukrainian investigations? Bullshitters that are streaming? And journalists that are sycophantic to Joe Biden and politicians that are sycophantic to Joe Biden? Or the dude that's the target of the investigation who has fled the country because he's worried about the investigations? And I didn't even get to it, but Onishenko, who was a parliamentarian there, he literally has on tape that he's talking to President Poroshenko saying, Zlochevsky sent me. He'll give you all this bribe money if you can get these investigations closed. So it's clear that, we'll talk about that in a moment, Floyd, after I'm done talking about the debate. So it's clear that there was an investigation going on. I refuse to believe that they're spending all of these millions of dollars fighting phantoms. He's hiring Hunter Biden. He's hiring Blue Star Strategies. He has them going talking to any politician that will listen to the United States. Please close down these investigations. And all the while, there's no investigation? It's nonsensical. Thanks, Easy Breezy. Oh, for God's sakes, this is my work office. There's no trophies. I'm lucky I even am allowed to put that sign up. But even if, what I was saying, and this is, maybe I should have even said this, hypothetically, even if there wasn't an investigation, it's irrelevant. If Zlochevsky thought there was an investigation, he said, Hunter, reach out to your dad and get this dude fired, because I think he's investigating me. Even if he wasn't. And again, I leave room that he wasn't technically. It may have been that Shokin was a corrupt dude who was soliciting bribes. These things happened in Ukraine. But you would still want that dude fired if you're corrupt Zlochevsky and you're like, shit, this guy's going to charge me unless I pay him a bribe. Unless I get Hunter Biden to have his dad get him fired. Then I don't have to pay that bribe. And that's, after all, why did I bring Hunter Biden on? That to me was the most damning. The specific conversation about call your dad, that's really bad too. But even without that, just the testimony that for the first time in Devon Archer's testimony, we had someone say the words of Zlochevsky that said, I am under pressure from Ukrainian government investigations. And of course, Devon Archer, when he would later go on Tucker Carlson's show after his testimony, would say, yeah, he knew that meant Shokin. Do I really think that it's that thought out and premeditated? What do you mean? That it was premeditated for... I think that they hired Hunter Biden because they knew that they were being investigated in Ukraine. And that those investigations in Ukraine, which they may have been able to deal with eventually, but the problem was that was destroying investment opportunities around the world. Because as long as this investigation was opened, that it made Burisma look really bad. And so they needed a prosecutor that would be willing to be like, investigation is over. You're in the clear. And Viktor Shokin was not that man. Whether it be because he was threatening them to out them unless they paid bribes, or because he was actively investigating. I think probably the most likely scenario, and I have no proof of this, there are 3 potential scenarios that I see, I guess 4. The 4th, which is incredibly unlikely, is that there was just no investigation, no bribes, nothing. I don't believe that, because that would make no sense as to how everyone in Burisma got it wrong. And we actually have tape of him offering bribe. Why would you bribe Poroshenko if there's no investigation, if he has no leverage over you? So I don't believe that. So the 3 other possible scenarios are, 1, that Viktor Shokin is investigating legitimately, which they would want him gone. 2nd, is that Viktor Shokin is corrupt and he's soliciting bribes and threatening to prosecute them unless they pay, which would mean they want Shokin gone. Or 3rd, Viktor Shokin isn't corrupt and he's actively investigating, but his boss, Poroshenko, will stop him from ever bringing a charge unless he gets the bribe. So there's still bribe, But Shokin's not involved in that. And that's what I think's the most likely scenario. That Shokin's just like, oh, corruption. But he would ultimately listen to the president if the president said, okay, end that investigation. I got what I wanted. That's what I think's the most likely scenario. But in all three of those scenarios, Burisma and Zlochevsky have reason to want Viktor Shokin gone. What they told Ken Vogel in the New York Times was, we wanted him gone because he was soliciting bribes. Could be true. Of course, that's what they would say. They're not going to say, we're corrupt. Even if they're off the record or on the record talking to a reporter, they're not going to say, by the way, we're criminals and we're corrupt and blah, blah, blah. We're paying bribes. They're never going to say that. So that's what you would say. Yeah, this dude was on our ass because he was trying to get bribes. But the important part of that statement was, he was on our ass. Of course, they didn't say that verbatim. Machine says, why would that person be Hunter Biden, though, versus someone else who could handle that better? Someone who knew how things worked in corrupt Ukraine. I don't see why Hunter is the guy versus someone else. Because Hunter Biden's dad's Joe Biden. That's why. They brought Hunter Biden on because of his dad. And I can't even believe that he tried to argue that point. Once you have him on the payroll, that's the exact reason you bring him. Now, I guess the first reason you'd bring him on is for clout, right? Because there is, you remember that Always Sunny where Dennis just keeps saying, it's the implication. Yeah, Hunter said it wasn't just because of that. It was also that he was skilled as a litigator and just nonsense. Absolute horseshit. Yeah, he said that twice. No, he had other skills. Whatever. Like there's no other litigators. And they brought him on the board. Because originally when they brought Devon on the board, Devon brought Hunter on as a lawyer, but not in the board. So they put him on the board not to be a lawyer, not to be a litigator. And he said he was good at connections for donations and stuff. I'm sorry, what's your name? Mecha anime protagonist. I'm sorry. I get it now. Try to clarify what you're saying. I'll try to respond. They're going to use Hunter because he's talking to his dad intimately. Of course they didn't have to hire Hunter to have access to powerful people. But hiring him gives you huge access to one of the most powerful people. You can, but it's sort of like a God of the Gaps argument. Like when I argue with Destiny, it's something he says. Once you could prove one case of a whistleblower blowing the whistle on corruption, that proves that no other corruption could ever happen because a whistleblower would have blown the whistle. No, that's not the way it works. Yeah, you're absolutely right. For example, I guess they could have hired someone in Obama's family. True. I guess they could have. They could have hired all sorts of people. They decided, and this happened all through Ukraine, to hire a bunch of politicians. For example, some of John Kerry's family was working there. You're right. You could say, but here's another group of politicians from Chuck Schumer's daughter or Mitch McConnell's brother. Right, I guess. Yeah. But Hunter Biden was unscrupulous enough that he would be willing to blatantly take these sort of jobs. He was out there actively marketing the brand. They had an opportunity where Hunter Biden's firm reached out to them. You understand that, right? The first contact was Rosemont Seneca, Archer and Hunter's company, reaching out to Zlochevsky to try to make him an investor in some business deal they had. And Zlochevsky's like, nah, I'm not interested, but how would you like to work on the board here? Devon Archer's like, sure, sounds great. And then after a couple months, they're like, why don't you bring Hunter on the board too? So they had ease of access. They had someone connected to an incredibly powerful person that could get the job done. That would then be able to be used around the world, saying, Vice President's son works here, so you know we're going to be good. Think about it. If you're Zlochevsky, you've been accused of corruption. Now all of a sudden you have the Vice President of the United States of America's son on your board of directors. Even if there is no corruption that ever occurs by Joe Biden, what that says to investors is, we're not going to be targeted. Vice President's son's here. And in fact, when Blue Star Strategies sends emails out to the State Department to request meetings, what do you think's one of the first things they say? Hey, Hunter Biden works here. Yeah, but who would they use? Who would have had access to Joe Biden? If Joe Biden's literally because think about it this way. Let's say they use someone who doesn't have a connection to Joe Biden, right? He has connections to, let's just say theoretically, George Kent, who works at the State Department. And so they hire George Kent's brother. And so George Kent's brother is calling George Kent saying, hey man, we got to get this Viktor Shokin guy fired. And George Kent goes to Joe Biden and says, maybe we should get Shokin fired. And a bunch of other people in the room go, I don't know about that. Maybe. But we're not going to condition this aid. This aid's really important to go to Ukraine. And that was the official State Department stance, that money needed to go. They needed that $1 billion loan. And of course, it's a whole nother ball of wax, but the Obama administration heavily wanted to finance Ukraine. But again, the son was the easiest access. Who would you get? Brother? They could have got James Biden, I guess. Who else would you get that was out there marketing themselves that had a connection to Joe Biden like that? Again, he approached them. And you'd say, what's so obvious? Well, what have the consequences been? They impeached Trump over looking into it. There's been no harm to Biden thus far. And even Democrats that see, you're saying it's so obvious, and yet every Democrat I talk to says, nothing to see here, no big deal. So if it's so obvious, it's clear that it wasn't to a huge amount of people in this country. And as long as the media is on your side, and all of these institutions on your side, they just make the story go away. Again, if you had a business partner of Don Jr., who said, hey, you see this email that Don Jr. sent that said 10% of the money while Trump was in office was going to the big guy? See that? Yeah, that was Trump. I guarantee you it would be the biggest story in the country. And yet we have the business partner of Hunter Biden who said exactly that about Joe Biden, and it's crickets. He's full of shit. No, I have the emails to prove. Nah, you're full of shit. And that happened in 2019. Or I'm sorry, 2020, when Bob Alinsky went public. No one gave a shit. 51 former intel agencies said, Hunter Biden laptop's bullshit. It was all a lie. It was blatantly a lie. They don't give a shit. That's why they used Hunter Biden. Because why not? His company approached them. He was willing to do this shit. So that's it. That's the fact. If Zelensky, if Zlochevsky thought that he was under investigation, then he would have incentive. So the argument of, if there was no investigation. That's bullshit. Again, Mecca, no, they never subpoenaed Biden's bank records. They didn't interview Biden. They didn't interview Hunter Biden. They didn't check his bank records. In fact, we have IRS agents saying, we tried to look into Joe Biden's bank records. They told us no. We tried to go to his home where we thought documents were. They told us no, we couldn't go. Joe Biden's bank records have never been subpoenaed. He's never had to testify under oath. Hunter Biden didn't until today. And this shit happened in 2015, 2016. They impeached Trump over it. And even if there wasn't direct money going to Joe Biden, we see the money trail going to Hunter and James and the rest of his family. Again, to me, the central issue is, look at how Biden was treated. At the exact same time, look at how Trump was treated. Unverified opposition research sourced by a Russian spy, and they went all fucking out. Illegal FISA warrants to spy on Trump's team as a candidate, plus as a president. Sending spies like Stephen Halper to meet all these people in his team. Leaks to the press. Years-long investigations. Accusing Trump of getting urinated on and Russia having compromise and he's a Russian spy and blah, blah, blah. It was the biggest story in the country for 4 fucking years. And this shit, at the exact same time that they're concocting that Russia shit, Joe Biden's literally in office offering a quid pro quo to fire a prosecutor that's looking into his son's company. That's also allegedly a corrupt Russian oligarch. Because it's not just about Republicans and Democrats. Mitch McConnell doesn't give a shit. Mitt Romney doesn't give a shit. Paul Ryan doesn't give a shit. The Republican leadership had no incentive. Some of the Republican leadership have children and family members getting similar lucrative deals around the country. They don't want this Band-Aid ripped open. It could affect them. And they don't like Trump anyways. So who would have been looking into it? The FBI? Well, Trump was in office and James Comey was a Republican. They fucking hated Trump. That's why Chuck Schumer said they'll find 6 ways of Sunday at getting back at him. How would they do it? How's the Republicans going to be like, you have to subpoena records. You'd have to impanel a grand jury. What's the Republicans' mechanism for doing it? They can't launch a criminal investigation. And at that point, Biden's not in office while Republicans are there 2017 to 19. Then once Trump's team starts looking into it, what do? Impeach Trump. Now in 2024, they're saying that it's Russiagate 2.0. Trump, Giuliani were working with Russians trying to get this evidence. Yeah, goodbye, Mitch. You'll be sorely missed. So that's excuse one. Excuse two. It wasn't Biden that came up with the quid pro quo. This was the policy of the U.S. and the EU. Show me. Show me. Oh, come on, don't do this. I hate these paywalls. The computer's probably going to crash bringing up sources. Here I go. If it crashes, I'm done. So I'm not going to try to come back on if it crashes again. Oh, no. Do this. No. Here's from the New York Post, September 8th, 2023. Let's see if we can get this up. Hopefully we don't crash here. European Commission praised the Ukraine Prosecutor General Viktor Shokin for his efforts to fight corruption in a December 2015 progress report published 9 days after Joe Biden demanded his ouster. The report flies in the face of Biden's claims that the European Union joined in his demands to have Shokin be removed. In fact, the December 18, 2015 progress report obtained by the New York Post says the European Union was satisfied that the Ukraine had achieved, quote, noteworthy progress, including preventing and fighting corruption, and was thus eligible for visa-free travel in Europe. The European Commission noted that Shokin had just appointed the head of a special anti-corruption prosecution office, which it described as, quote, an indispensable component of an effective and independent institutional framework for combating high-level corruption. And yet the defense we hear is not just, and you heard, well, if you saw the debate, it wasn't just, oh, the United States all wanted Shokin gone. It was the United States and Europe. And yet, 5 days after the quid pro quo was offered to Poroshenko to oust Shokin, the European Union saying they're doing great. They're fighting corruption. Doesn't say, and when I brought this up to someone like Pisco, he said, well, they meant aside from Shokin. Then why would they say give them the aid? Of course, that memo says more things need to happen. But it says at that point they're recommending aid. So the idea, it doesn't mention the firing of Viktor Shokin. It speaks pretty glowingly and says they're doing good. And then it says, but more needs to be done, but we're recommending giving the aid. Yeah, I agree. I try not to judge people by their viewers. Of course, a literal wire transfer, but again, we don't need a wire transfer to Joe Biden. And I got that admission out of him as well. What's his name now? Pondering. So then I say, okay, show me where people were calling for the ouster of Shokin. Show me. No one can show me. Here's what we got. Pisco one time showed me an article in April, or an article claiming that people started this was after Shokin was gone, but said State Department officials, unnamed officials, said that they were in contact with European officials discussing firing Shokin in April of 2015. That's 2 months on the job, which flies in the face of belief. Because Lutsenko, who was corrupt, was there for years, and they weren't talking about firing him. But they only gave Shokin 2 months? That's what we're supposed to believe? And of course, there's nothing contemporaneous. No one from a European government or from the United States government released anything in April talking about firing Shokin. I think there was a memo in June from Victoria Nuland at the State Department to Viktor Shokin personally saying, hey, you got to do work, but we're looking forward to working with you. She didn't recommend it. There's nothing in April, May, June, July, August, September. Nothing. Nothing suggesting firing Viktor Shokin. Now, what we know is, come November, and even previous to that, we see increased activity from Burisma and Zlochevsky and Vadim, like the CFO or the secretary or whatever he was, telling Hunter Biden and Devon Archer, reach out to your U.S. contacts. We want these investigations closed. Then, all of a sudden in November, now it's official State Department. Okay, Shokin's got to go. Okay. Where does it say condition aid? Aid that the State Department thought was very important. We have to build up Ukraine. 2015, 2016. Where is it? Nowhere. I'm going to try something. This is risky. This is risky business. I'm going to try to play a video. Oh my goodness.
The sense was not only in the U.S. government.
This is amazing. I'm shocked. Let's hope this works. Yeah, I hear my computer overheating. Listen to what he says.
The sense was not only in the U.S. government, but in the EU and the IMF, that Shokin had become kind of a single point of failure. Fast forward to December, Vice President Biden is traveling to Kyiv. So we're flying over to Kyiv, and we're talking about the speech, and we're talking about the loan guarantee, and the Vice President is getting briefed by his advisors, but also by Assistant Secretary Nuland, and then when we land, by Ambassador Pyatt. And the Vice President basically says, look, I'm just going to tell Poroshenko that you're not getting the money unless you fire Shokin. And the reason why the Vice President decided to make it that stark was that he believed we were never going to have the kind of leverage we had right now.
Was he lying?
The sense was not only in the U.S. government, but in the EU.
Who did he say? He said, we're talking about the loan guarantee. He doesn't say Victoria Nuland, Jeffrey Pyatt. Why were they talking about the guarantee if I'm supposed to believe that they made the decision in November to offer the quid pro quo? Yeah, no problem, Becca. I didn't think you were rude at all. I enjoyed the questions. It helps me clarify. You should be skeptical. And when people approach it and ask questions, it helps me clarify to everyone. So I appreciate it. I will enjoy my night. Now, I wish I would have played that for their audience, but of course I'm having computer problems. And of course that's saved on my computer at home. So where is it? Has it ever happened is this a common thing? The U.S. government? Nope, never happened in history. We don't even have anyone except the very State Department that Joe Biden's at the helm of. He's the point person. In November saying, okay, Shokin's got to go. But no one's suggesting a quid pro quo. Quite the opposite. It was Joe Biden himself that came up with the idea. That gets to the next defense that they make. This timeline argument. The timeline argument just goes in with there's only two defenses. And that is, it was already established policy to want to get rid of Shokin and to do this quid pro quo. That's argument one. And argument two is Shokin was corrupt and he wasn't investigating anyways. Well, it's clear that there's no evidence that this was US-EU policy. Quite the opposite. We see documents in December from the EU saying things are going good. Doesn't say fire Shokin. We don't see anything from any outside agency that Biden's not the point man on anywhere. Just the State Department in November. That's all we see. And it doesn't mention a quid pro quo at all. It was Joe Biden himself, we're told, that said quid pro quo. So how can you claim this was established policy? The time frame. Well, they talked about firing Shokin in November. Well, that's not going to help because we could see emails that were suggesting that Hunter reach out to his contacts to get these investigations closed. So it doesn't help. And still, what does that matter? Like, I've gone through this painstakingly. But let's say that in November, because this is what Pisco tried to say. Well, if they'd already in November knew that Hunter reached out to people like Joe and they were going to get rid of Poroshenko, why would he be calling in December? Well, because it wasn't effective. That's why. In fact, this is all but admitted by Shokin, and Poroshenko drug his feet. In fact, Joe Biden admits it. If you listen to Joe Biden's speech at the Council on Foreign Relations, remember what he said? That's how we first heard about all this. He said, I said, you're not going to get this money unless you fire him. And what did Poroshenko say? You're not the boss, Obama is. And Biden said, call him. So it's clear that Poroshenko was resisting firing him until there was that leverage of denying the aid. So if you're Zlochevsky and you say, Hunter, I want you to call your dad, I want you to do whatever you can to get these investigations closed. And it's May. Investigation's still going. At least you think it is, you know? May, June, July, August. You're paying this dude all this money. What the fuck, man? I'm not getting results. September, October, November. Finally, Hunter comes back to you in November and says, hey, look at this. Look at this. Turns out now the State Department's saying fire him. Okay, that's November. Now we're in December. Now there's articles coming out by the New York Times, and Zlochevsky and them knew it was coming out. In fact, what's the date on this article? It's sometime in December. So at this point, the heat's being turned up. Now is the investigation's not only still ongoing, and then of course in February they would seize his assets, re-seize them. So the heat's being turned up. Now you have the U.S. press that's like, uh-oh, what's Joe Biden's son doing there? So Zlochevsky's like, dude, what the fuck? It's not working. Call him. Okay. Then all of a sudden, a couple days later, now it's working. Now there's a quid pro quo. So the timeline issue makes no... And again, I understand this sounds backwards. You'll say innocent until proven guilty. In a criminal court, absolutely. That's not impeachment. And impeachment's not even what my central argument is. Though I think it rises to the level of impeachment. For me, it rose to the level of a DOJ investigation, or more particularly a special counsel investigation. They should have at least did the bare minimum of getting testimony from Hunter Biden, Devon Archer, Joe Biden. But they didn't do that. Am I still here? People still sue me? Okay, hopefully. They didn't do it. So at that point, I don't think it's unreasonable to say there needs to be an immediate and thorough investigation anytime you have a politician that uses your tax dollars to force the firing of a prosecutor that's looking into their family's company. How is that a controversial opinion? I don't give a shit if your name's Biden or Obama or Trump or Bush or Clinton or Gates or Pauls, Rand and Ron Paul. I don't give a shit. I don't care what your political affiliation is. It's that simple. And if you do it, you have to understand. Let's say, hypothetically, Joe Biden's completely innocent. And even though he's talking to his son every day, according to him, and even though his son's putting him on speakerphone with his business associates, let's say that Joe Biden's right, that he never talked business. He was completely out of the loop. Well, he knew his son was there, and he knew it was an appearance of a conflict of interest, and he knew he was doing something unprecedented with this quid pro quo that he came up with. So at that point, you would be like, okay, I know this looks bad. I understand there has to be an investigation because it looks so bad, but I didn't do anything. But no, that's not what's going on. Yeah, that's probably what's going on, Mecca. Restream. What other defense did he have? This absurd defense. I never understood this defense. And it's something that people... I mean, it's just like they hear someone say something and they... So that's what that timeline thing is. It makes no sense. Then another defense he offers... Well, they were investigating Burisma for a time before Hunter was on the board of directors. What the fuck does that prove? Now, when they make a defense, you have to ask, okay, how would this be a defense? Right? So again, let's make this situation as simple as possible. Hunter Biden's working for a corrupt Russian oligarch getting paid buku bucks. His dad gives a quid pro quo to fire the prosecutor that at least on paper is supposed to be looking into him. That prosecutor gets fired, new guy comes in, and it helps Hunter Biden's business owner that's paying it. That's the facts. Indisputable. That's what happened. So what are the defenses to that? Well, it was already U.S.-EU policy. Why would that be a defense? Well, because if it was already established policy, then there's nothing to see that Biden did that. Not true. Just like we had Republicans and Democrats that wanted James Comey fired. Fuck, Rod Rosenstein wrote the memo suggesting firing James Comey. Then Trump fired James Comey, and Rosenstein goes, that's odd. We need a special counsel. When Rosenstein was the one who wrote the memo. And what was the justification? Well, maybe Trump wanted him fired for a different reason than the ones we wanted him fired for. Then why wouldn't the same apply? So that argument from the get-go, it was already established policy, is irrelevant. And, and yet, even if we would say, okay, but let's look at the evidence, there's no evidence. None. They keep talking about it. Yes, there were people afterwards that said, oh, yeah, trust us, we were all talking about it. Great. Didn't you guys send emails? Didn't you guys, don't you keep minutes at your meetings where you discuss what you talk about? You can't provide one piece of evidence? Even if they did provide a piece of evidence, it doesn't make this a credible defense for the reasons I just said. But they can't even provide evidence of it. And in fact, to the contrary. All the EU wanted him gone, and yet we see these memos from the EU in December that say, no, we think the Ukraine's doing great with corruption. Still got work to do. Good night, Mecca. The next defense. Shokin wasn't investigating them anyways. Shokin was corrupt. Now that's a more solid defense. That's why I say that's the best defense. Because in order to say, because if that's true, then Burisma wouldn't have let Shokin gone. Because the corrupt part of the, let's just say hypothetically, Hunter Biden never worked for Viktor Shokin, and Joe Biden had no connections whatsoever. Let's say we were clairvoyant and knew that. So there's nothing nefarious between Joe Biden and Burisma, his family, or anything. And in that world, if Joe Biden's like, fire this dude, here's a quid pro quo, you might even argue this is haphazard, this is stupid, why would he make this decision? But it would be difficult to say that it's for personal benefit, personal gain. And I accept that even if it's not things that I agree with, the way the executive has been ran, they can play fast and loose with money that Congress has doled out. They do it all the time. So that would be a policy disagreement. What makes it corrupt is that it directly benefited his son. And then his son had an incentive to want investigations into Burisma closed. That's the corrupt aspect of it. So the defense of, no, Shokin wasn't investigating, that's the best defense. Except, here's the problems with it. One, we have no evidence that Joe Biden thought that Shokin wasn't investigating. No one's been able to provide that. I'll grant it would be hard to provide that evidence. Secondly, we have evidence that actually Shokin was investigating, freezing assets, opening new avenues of the investigations, Shokin's own testimony under oath. But thirdly, and most importantly, we have emails from Zlochevsky and Burisma, Vadim, saying that there's Ukrainian investigations into them. And we then have the testimony of Devon Archer, which is why I say it's so damning. That says Zlochevsky personally told him, I'm under pressure from Ukrainian government investigations. That's it. That dispenses with that defense. Now, you'll remember, I had arguments when this testimony came out with people like Sitch from Adam and Sitch's show and with Pisco. And what their argument is, I shit you not, I'm not making this up. Their argument is, when Zlochevsky says, I'm under pressure from, quote, Ukrainian government investigations, what he really meant was from investigations in the United States. He just slipped up when he said Ukrainian government investigations, which is hilarious because they say that twice. They say it in the November 5th email where he's saying, Hunter, the ultimate goal is to reach out to your connections with the ultimate goal of ending Ukrainian government investigations into Burisma and Zlochevsky. And then apparently they slip up again when he says, I'm under pressure from Ukrainian government investigation. That's their fucking argument. Unfortunately, Pondering doesn't even go that far. Pondering's just like, well, like it's one of those things. I'll admit, I was trying to think of a way to explain this. I don't know if he's intentionally doing it or not, but, well, even if he thought they were under investigation, you don't have proof that they were. Right, but if I'm a corrupt businessman and I think I'm under investigation, that's why I pay the bribe. This is no longer a defense, because the defense of, oh, well, this couldn't have benefited Hunter Biden, so nothing to see here, is reliant on the fact that Burisma had no incentive to send Hunter Biden to deal with his dad to get Shokin fired. But if Burisma thought that Shokin was investigating them, even if he wasn't, then there would be an incentive to send Hunter Biden. No, Sitch, I've reached out several times when new stuff broke about this, and Sitch and Adam have no interest in talking to me. I understand why. They acted like total children, particularly Adam, the whole time. Kept saying that I was biased, being dickheads to me the whole time, and then at the end, when I said that they had a bias, they flipped fucking out. It was okay for them to accuse me of bias the whole time, but they're centrists, they can't be biased. They wouldn't even let me get the words out of my mouth, which were, the bias isn't that they're biased for Democrats or Republicans, the bias is they're biased towards institutions. And so until the FBI or some other prominent agency tells them that there's a problem, they're not going to believe it. But they acted like fucking children and crybabies, so whatever. But that's their argument. Well, I don't know about Adam's argument. He probably just insults people and adds nothing to the conversation. Maybe he's better on other conversations. I don't know. I don't wish them ill. Sometimes I watch their show and enjoy their guest. Good for them. But, yeah, that's what happened. Next argument. Hunter wasn't the target of the investigation. How's that a defense? This is right. That's how we go. How is that a defense? Yes or no? Did Hunter Biden have? If Hunter's boss said, "Hey, reach out to your father and get this investigation closed," is the argument really? Hunter's like, "Oh, okay, boss. Thanks, Zlochevsky," and then he goes back to his bedroom. He's probably snorting lines. Looks in the mirror and goes, wait a minute, even though the guy who's paying me handsomely wants me to do this, in truth, the investigation, which could potentially come up with crimes that I've committed, but it's really focused on the time before I was here, so I'm not going to do it. I have no incentive to do it. How about the near $100,000 a month you're getting? That seems to be a pretty big incentive. I don't understand this. And it's an argument. Again, it's like they heard it somewhere. Well, actually, Shokin wasn't even criminally investigating. The investigation wasn't even about Hunter Biden. Okay. Imagine that there's a prosecutor that's looking into some company that I've never heard of. Yeah, or they're looking into Google, right? And somehow on that prosecution team's a relation of mine. And so Google reaches out to me and says, hey man, we'll pay you $100,000 if you could talk to your relation and get... get this charge dropped? Would it be sufficient defense to say, oh, but they weren't looking into me. They weren't looking into me. Yeah, but they paid you $100,000. Oh, no. That wouldn't be an incentive. They weren't looking into me. Well, it's two ships passing. It has nothing. It's not a defense. And, once more, even that's bullshit. For example, were they looking in to FARA violations in 2013 when they did the Trump-Russia collusion investigation? No. They didn't get anyone on Trump's team for anything related to Russia collusion. They got them for a bunch of other shit. Why? Because in the course of the investigation, they turned up other shit that they wanted to charge. Why would it be any different here? Exactly. That's it. They have no defense. So what was Pondering's argument? He had nothing to say against any of that. He meandered on about the timeline in the EU-SEU, but he was forced to concede. He was unable to provide any evidence of that contemporaneously. None. You heard it. If Aftershock, you were there, he admitted it. He straight up admitted, I don't have that. Okay. Oh, you're back from shoveling snow. Great. Thank you. Sorry about the computer crashing, but... Then, when it gets to the big, he has to concede. He conceded, yeah, I guess, unless you say that he was misremembering that Zlochevsky thought he was under investigation. Right. And unfortunately, and this is the worst part about this, it's the best and the worst. He keeps saying, but you don't have proof. You don't have proof. I'll concede 100%. Without an investigation that does the bare minimum of doing things like looking into the bank records of the Bidens and interviewing the Bidens under oath. Yes, if those that are tasked with doing investigations in law enforcement choose not to, and I'm reliant on publicly available evidence, you will always be able to say, but show me the smoking gun. That's true. How convenient. So let's just say, even though Pondering's not here, if I could ask him, I'd say, can you hypothetically see that an agency like the FBI could become corrupt? And let's say he would say, sure, I could see how that would. How would you ever out their corruption if you say, well, they have prosecutor discretion and they chose not to, constantly they choose not to open investigations on one side, but then have ridiculous, insane investigations against the other? And this is something Destiny does. Can you prove that Hillary Clinton ordered the deletion of subpoenaed evidence? No. Soundbite. Get my editor to clip that. There we go. Put that up. Rob admits no evidence of Hillary Clinton. I never said there was evidence of Hillary Clinton. I said that the investigators purposely chose not to look. Instead, they gave the guy that they knew committed the crime and deleted the evidence fucking immunity. And then the guy said, yeah, I don't remember my conversations. Don't remember them. Yeah, I talked to Cheryl Mills a day or two before I deleted them. Don't remember. It was an oh shit moment. And the FBI says, good enough for us. Right. How would I have that evidence? Do you think that I have access to Hillary's phone calls, text messages, communications, or Cheryl Mills, or Paul Combetta's? Of course not. I'm not saying throw Hillary in jail based on the publicly available evidence. What I'm saying is the FBI chose not to look. They didn't subpoena their phone records. They didn't throw this guy under the table and say, we're charging you with crimes. Tried to turn the screws on him to get him to talk. Instead, they did the opposite. They gave him immunity. Same here. Pondering laughably said... Aftershock was there. I don't know anyone else who watched the debate because unfortunately my computer crashed, so you had to be on Pondering's channel to watch it. Am I misquoting? When I asked Pondering what would be the level of proof required for impeachment, I said, are you saying that we would need like a written confession from Joe Biden? And he was like, yeah. What do you say to that? I mean, okay. And then, of course, when I say, okay, if that's your standard, did you have the same standard with Trump? Oh, well, we're not going to talk about that. That's apples to oranges. What? I don't even know what to say. And Aftershock's right. It's hard. Well, that would be great evidence. Right. It would be very good evidence. But it wouldn't matter. That's the truth. How much you want to bet, Go Rams? How much you want to bet? Even if we did. If we somehow got like an audio tape that got leaked of Joe Biden going, yeah, I did that to help my son. It wouldn't move the needle. It wouldn't. For example, we have look at, all you have to do is look at how they treat when things are evident. We all see the tape of Jamal Bowman. We all see it with our own eyes. Fucking video evidence right there. Didn't move the needle. Didn't move the needle at all. Actually, I think he did make a move for the door. He lied blatantly to police. Well, when he said he didn't intend the alarm to go off, what he really meant was he did intend the alarm to go off. So it wouldn't matter. They would come up with some bullshit excuse. As long as Biden was like, no, that's, you're misunderstanding what I was saying. That's what they would say. Was this AI generated? Is that really Joe Biden's voice? When was this taken? Was he possibly joking? Yeah, he was confused. His son had just passed away when he said that. He was in a difficult place. Yeah, and then with Trump, it's like, oh, he's guilty, I know it. Well, he said go peaceful. He meant go violently protest. But he said peaceful. I know what he meant. Okay? But yeah, you're right, that would be better evidence. But, I mean, I also got Pondering to admit that it looks, he said he'd have to look into it more, but it looks like it's a double standard in how the FBI treated Trump in 2016 versus Biden. Which was a pretty good admission. Yeah, his son didn't die in combat. He served, but I don't know if he saw combat, but he may have. What's this? Bullshit ad? But yeah, he didn't die in combat, which is offensive. It's not a big deal, really, except that you're using your son for political clout. And the thing that's the worst is when he's telling families of people whose children did die in combat, so did my son. I have no problem if he says, I know what it feels like to lose a son, I lost my son. Completely in bounds. Yeah, you hear that, computer fan? I'm telling you, man. It's brutal. So, I mean, I don't know. There were other things I wanted to get to. You know, I read the Ken Vogel article. What else did I want to talk about? May 26, 2016, right after they're putting Lutsenko in. Biden uses his pseudonym, which is what, Peters? Robert Peters, I think? On an email saying, 8:45, talking about the 9 o'clock talking points for 9 o'clock meeting with Poroshenko. Phone call with Poroshenko. Who's attached to the email? Hunter Biden. But they never talked about business. How's that possible? I didn't get to talk about that, unfortunately. And I'll show you that right now in case you think I'm wrong about that. Thursday, May 26th, from Flynn John to Robert L. Peters. CC, Hunter Biden. Friday schedule. Boss, 8:45 prep for 9 a.m. phone call with President Poroshenko. Then we're off to Rhode Island for infrastructure. Why would Hunter Biden be attached to an email that's going to a pseudonym of Biden? I don't think the Republicans have subpoenaed the bank records of Joe Biden. I think they would probably need to go to a grand jury, which they have not done. Any other points anyone who saw the debate or has questions about this wanted to bring up? I thought I did pretty well, and I thought I got some concessions, which is what I was trying to do. And unfortunately, I think pondering strategy was just... I mean, if I could sum it up, it's just, well, there's no written confession, and Devon Archer said, I never saw them conducting business, so... I don't think it goes any deeper than that. I'm unpersuaded, to say the least. And then my central issue, granted, we could talk... If I focus at it through the lens he purely wants to see, whether or not this is justification for impeachment, the mere lying could be justification of impeachment. But I certainly think this would rise to the level, given the low bar that was set with Trump. However, that's not my issue, because I know impeachment will go nowhere anyways. My issue is showing the double standard in how FBI, law enforcement, the media, all of these institutions handle that, versus how they handle Trump. I mean, again, remember, most of these details we're talking about occurred in late 2015 and early 2016. It's 9 years. 9 years! Still never sit down and talk to Joe Biden. Didn't talk to Hunter Biden till today. Didn't talk to Devon Archer. Tony Bobulinski's out there screaming at the clouds in 2020. No one's willing to listen to him. Media doesn't give a shit. Instead, we have intel agents saying, looks like Russian disinformation to us. Meanwhile, leave no stone unturned in any litany of investigations against Donald Trump. And it's just frustrating to me. Even, I think the idea that Pondering said I would basically need a written confession. The other thing that's really frustrating is just the downplaying of this in general. I mean, we're in a lot of trouble. If we can't agree as a country, you shouldn't have presidents, vice presidents, etc. using your tax dollars to force the firing of prosecutors allegedly looking at, on paper at least, looking into their families' companies. We're in a lot of fucking trouble. If that's how By the way, remember when the Democrats used to complain about Citizens United? Remember that? We need to get money out of politics. Remember they used to complain about that all the time. Now they're like, well, if the vice president uses $1 billion tax dollars to force the firing of a prosecutor looking into the company that his son's on the board of directors in, I don't see the problem. Same people that were screeching about money in politics. Yeah, go ahead with your question. I'm not going to stay up too late, so we'll get a couple questions and then... I mean, it's surreal. How can we operate? And by the way, it's the same people that, and I know this is ridiculous, but it's the same people that you have to constantly remind yourself, like, oh, but if it was Trump, they would be flying off the fucking handle. And you know it's true. Need proof? Look at how many of them said, oh my God, Trump on tape admitted to a writer he had classified documents. Proof, clear-cut evidence of a crime. Okay, Biden did it multiple times and then proceeded to read the classified material. So he did it more times than Trump and worse because he actually read the classified material. Well, that's true too, TL. And then, of course, they're like, well, you can't bring up Trump. You can't do that. But that's the entire argument, the double standard. It is so... And what's funny is they accuse me of being partisan. But it's so evident that's all they are. Whatever... And again, this is what's mind-blowing. This is what you have to understand. It's not that they're partisan for Biden. It's that they're partisan against Trump. That's the thing that blows my mind the most. Given that a huge issue for us in November is people who would not vote for Trump if he's found guilty in the lawsuits, what do you think about the SCOTUS taking up the issue on his immunity? Given this, the lawsuits will be heavily pushed back to maybe after the election. Given this, does it sway your opinion on Trump's chances? it slightly increases Trump's chance, I would say. But I'm so pessimistic in that I understand that there is nothing they won't do to stop Trump. So if the Supreme Court comes out tomorrow and is like, let us make a very compelling case why every single charge against Trump needs to be dropped, they're just going to go on to plan B and C and D, and there will be more corruption and stuff like that comes out. Either Trump will be able to overcome those things, in which case he would probably be able to overcome a guilty verdict on one of these, or he won't be able to. So for me, it doesn't move the needle much. Right now, the current strategy that the Democrats are relying on is that one of these court cases will find him guilty. That's certainly their A1 strategy. But if they can't do that, they'll move on to the next thing, which will probably be effective as well, in some sort of way. Pass on that, Rooked. Or Rooked. Yeah, pass. Yeah, Luigi, the problem is the more that the algorithms manipulate it and the talking heads start talking and the specifics come out. I saw that, okay. Democrats said if the court doesn't weigh in, they won't certify the election. I'm telling you, you'll be amazed. It won't just be leaking stories. Okay, the media's used to this, but what about social media? What if they just censor you again? What if there's a war? What if another disease happens? What if there are riots everywhere? What if something happens physically to Donald Trump? Right now, they're relying on court cases that haven't been adjudicated. So they're not pressing issues. I'm telling you, I would not be surprised. Like, there's going to be something like audio tape. You remember the grab him by the pee thing? Like, there's going to be audio tape of Trump using a homophobic slur or a racial slur. I'm telling you, it's going to happen. Something like that will come out. Now, having said everything tonight, I'm glad Pondering was willing to debate me. I saw some of the comments his audience were making. I'm not impressed, but what can you do? How did Trump gain votes since... How many people voted for Trump since 2020 in a general election? Polls are shit. I don't believe them for a second. Even if they are accurate now, trust me, that'll change. Again, we're just beginning. We're just beginning the campaign season. When is someone's best day at this point running for national level politics? The first day they enter. As time goes on, it gets worse for them. Biden's been shit for 4 years now. So he's got all that negative that goes into the polls. Trump, of course, they've always been after him, but it's just going to... The intensity and the amount of it's just going to heap and heap and heap and heap and heap. He will go down in the polls. I assure you. Does the VP sway me? Only in one way. If it was Nikki Haley, then it would sway me to not vote for Trump. DeSantis or Ben Carson or... I don't like Tulsi. I think Tulsi, I'll never forget when she... I remember screaming to the heavens about this. This is Tulsi Gabbard. I think this video says what I think it is. The computer probably crashed playing it, but we'll try.
So after doing my due diligence and reviewing the 658-page impeachment report, I came to the conclusion that I could not in good conscience vote either yes or no. I am standing in the center. I could not in good conscience vote against impeachment because I believe President Trump is guilty of wrongdoing. I could not in good conscience vote against impeachment because I believe President Trump is guilty.
She supported the impeachment investigation. She supported the Russiagate investigation. If my central issue is corruption, why would I want that? Vivek's the best, in my opinion, but yeah. I don't give a shit. Great, she could be red-pilled, she can fight in the sidelines. I don't want her one step away from the presidency. If her judgment was so poor during the impeachment, which, let's not kid ourselves, that was what, 2019? If it was so poor back then, great, you turned a leaf, excellent. I like a lot of the things you say. I don't support you for VP. Sorry. I'd be like, oh, we're going to put someone, Secretary of Health, who vehemently defended lockdowns and, vaccine mandates. But now he understands. No, I don't want that dude as Secretary of Health. Yeah, and then her policies. She's a Democrat. I mean, she is. Anything else? Sounds like my fan's eating up again. But no, I enjoyed the debate. I do. I like doing debates. I was looking forward to it. I was hoping it started earlier. I was ready. By the way, one thing I will mention. I like the argument that people were saying because this Smirnov character has been indicted, that it proves that the Russia collusion, that the Burisma scandal has been debunked. How? Everything that I've said to you up to this point today shows what that scandal is. Did any of it rely on this confidential human source? Any of it? Did the confidential human source make up that Biden's administration said that Zlochevsky was corrupt? No, they didn't make that up. That Hunter Biden basically got hired because he's a Biden? No, they didn't make that up. That he was getting paid a lot? No, they didn't make that up. That he was being told to lobby interest in the United States to get these cases dropped? No, they didn't make that up. That Zlochevsky said he was under pressure from Ukrainian government investigations? No. That Joe Biden offered a quid pro quo, forcing the firing of Shokin? No, he didn't make that up. And that firing of Shokin massively benefited Burisma? No, he didn't make that up either. As I said, with the confidential human source case when it came out, that was the closest to smoking gun evidence. If we found $5 million from this oligarch wired into a bank of Joe Biden's, that's pretty damning evidence. If that evidence doesn't exist or was made up, that doesn't disprove all of the other things that weren't reliant on this confidential human source or anyone else other than what's publicly agreed upon and available. That's exactly what's going on, Aftershock. Imagine if I would say this. All the cases against Trump are bullshit because Christopher Steele was a liar. They would quickly be like, but what does Christopher Steele have to do with the classified documents case? What does it have to do with that? But Christopher Steele lied. Debunked. I'd be like, what? Imagine if one person, an even better comparison, if one person in the classified document case that they relied on that said, I heard Trump say this, if he came out and said, actually I didn't, I was wrong, I lied, I made it up, would they say, oh, well then the classified document case, nothing to see here? Of course not. They would say, okay, that piece of evidence out the window, but... So I think it's fine. And that's what they rely on. They just, it's been debunked. The other thing is, I'll say this specifically about Pisco, who was saying this against today. Isn't Pisco pride himself on being a lawyer and saying innocent until proven guilty? He says he doesn't like to make judgments, even though there might be court hearings and things like that. We need to see the outcome of those before we make judgments. Yet he's already declared Smirnov guilty that he made this up? You're a liberal and you won't stand for my colonial horseshit. Jeez. Coming in hot. We'll see what's going on with Smirnov. There is... Let me say this, and I've mentioned this in the past, but not particularly about this case. Does anyone have something like this at home? It's called a phone. Now, you see these three things here? This is going to blow your mind. You know what these are? These are cameras. Now, this particular phone has, I believe, 3 cameras, as you can see. A little light there. And it can take pictures But here's another crazy thing it could do. It could record. And then I have this camera that cost me like $40 that I'm pointing at right now. That too can record video. And underneath that camera on my laptop is a shitty low quality camera that also can record video. Isn't that crazy? It's amazing, right? And yet, despite the incredible ease of getting your hand on a video recording device, somehow it is still the official policy of the FBI to not record their interviews. Not even audio. Instead, here's what they do. They take notes. And then those notes become the official record. Isn't that amazing? Those notes are called 302s. And I'm not making this up. That's what they do. They do not record this shit. Totally true. If you watch like First 48 or true crime documentaries, you'll oftentimes see when police have a killer in a room and they're interrogating and they got the cameras. In fact, it's a trope in like cop drama shows. They'll unplug the camera and then beat the shit out of the prisoner. The FBI doesn't even do that. They don't even have the camera in the corner. Yeah, right, Rook. And so what we're reliant on, let's say hypothetically you had a biased FBI. How hard would it be for them to write something down that's incorrect and then later say, oh, you lied? Okay, now keep that in mind for a second. What if you didn't even lie? What if they just accidentally wrote something down incorrectly? What if they did that? How would you ever know? They're going to remember a year and a half later? I don't know who this guy is, but I'm going to follow him right now. First off, his name's Climate Audit, so that's probably good. But he picks up something that I admit I did not notice. Now, granted, I only went through the CHS indictment quickly. He says, multiple pages of Smirnov indictment contain a series of texts from May 19, 2020, in very large font, in which Weiss characterizes expressing bias against Biden. Weiss failed to disclose what was happening on May 19, 2020. It was pivotal to subsequent censorship, including the laptop. On May 19, 2020, Andrei Derak and Konstantin Kuliak, the Ukrainian prosecutor who recovered $1.5 billion in embezzled funds, the only major recovery ever accomplished, held a press conference that released Biden-Poroshenko tapes. Here's the video. That's May 19th. The Derak press conference attracted little mainstream attention, but was noticed in this corner. One of the very few people that covered the press conference. Kudos to him. In summer 2020, Dems and U.S. security state suppressed Derak. In September 2020, Derak was sanctioned by the Treasury and his social media and website erased. It was part of the same operation as subsequent suppression of Hunter laptop. And you also saw, for example, that there were several people that they did this to. Onishenko was one of them. Bottom line, Smirnov's text on May 19, 2020 were about Derak Kuliak press conference of May 19th, which contained the lurid and detailed corruption allegations. So what they're saying is, you see these texts that Weiss says is evidence of bias. It's all over the news in Russia and Ukraine as well as live calls. He's saying the reason that he's having these texts on May 19th is because he's literally watching a press conference in which two Ukrainian prosecutors are talking about releasing the Biden-Poroshenko tapes, which you've heard audio of. And we've talked about it on the show, where these tapes show Biden saying, hey, we need you to get rid of Shokin. People forget it was Derek who in October 2019 had been the first person to report with receipts that Hunter Biden was getting $83,000 per month, $1 million a year. Kuliak was a Ukrainian prosecutor who had been lauded by Tetniak Charnovel for his role in recovering $1.5 billion funds, despite obstacles by Biden-backed allies within the Ukrainian governments. He was later sanctioned by the United States. The Smirnov indictment continues with a May 21st, 2020 text about Ukraine opening an investigation into corruption revealed by Derek and Kuliak. This was correct information. Zelensky announced the investigation, but later under pressure appears to have shut it down. Smirnov then sent a picture of Joe and Hunter Biden golfing with Devon Archer, a Burisma director. He was not the only person who incorrectly identified Archer, a Burisma director, as its CEO. On June 22, 2020, Derek and Kuliak held a press conference in which they provided further details on corruption allegations involving Burisma and Biden's. The next press conference on July 7, 2020 attracted little attention, but contained an August 2016 Biden-Poroshenko tape that linked both Poroshenko and Biden to the Black Ledger, an operation that decapitated Manafort as Trump's campaign manager. Derek was then deplatformed by U.S. intelligence agencies. As a bit of housekeeping, comparison of the FDE 1023 Grassley version to the indictment shows Ostapenko was Associate 1, Burisma 2 equals Przarski, Burisma 3 Zlochevsky daughter. Associate 2 is Usper, who does not speak Russian and is Smirnov's former partner. A few days after the June 22, 2020 Derek Kuliak press conference about the Biden corruption in Ukraine, FBI Pittsburgh contacted the handler about the previous 1023 report, which had been identified as a course of preliminary assessment of the Ukraine issues by the Deputy Attorney General. According to the indictment, on March 1, 2017, Smirnov reported contact with Burisma, including Przarski's business card. We know that Przarski traveled to Washington and Dallas on March 7th through 11th, 2017, including meetings with Hunter Biden, Cofer Black, Blue Star Strategies, and Aerotech. I know this is confusing, but just follow. So Smirnov saying on March 1st, I met with Przarski. And we know Przarski, 6 days later, was in the United States meeting with Hunter Biden. Then in April 2017, Smirnov and Przarski exchanged emails about how Burisma might do an acquisition of a public company in the United States, presumably as a reverse takeover. In May 2017, Burisma informed Ostapenko, Associate 1, that Burisma's objective was a U.S.-based oil and gas company, not an IPO. Ostapenko forwarded the email to Smirnov. In September 2017, there was a firmly dated meeting in Kiev involving Smirnov, Associate 2, who we don't know, Zlochevsky's daughter, at which Burisma declined interest in Associate 2's crypto product. Teaser, someone has information, we'll see. The 2020 FD 1023. Now this is the 1023 that is the one that said that Zlochevsky said that Biden's took bribes. So what happened was Smirnov talked about meetings way back in 2017. Then in 2020, he talks to this handler again at the FBI and says, well, I was at meetings where Zlochevsky said he paid Biden the bribe. So the 2020 F23, or 1023, also described a meeting in Kiev attended by Associate 2 and Zlochevsky's daughter. Associate 2's trip to Ukraine in 2017 was his first trip outside the U.S. since 2011. The meeting in Kiev described in the 2020 FD 1023 seems to be a reasonable characterization of the September 2017 meeting. However, Weiss accused Smirnov of placing the meeting back in 2015 and 16. Do you see what he's saying? This meeting definitely occurred in September 2017. However, Weiss says Smirnov said it was in 2015 and 16. This other guy, Walker Fry, connected the Kiev trip of Smirnov and Associate 2, his crypto friend, to a crypto conference in Kiev on September 16, 2019. September 16 through 19, 2017. Exactly the right dates. In other words, Associate 2 is a crypto guy, and at the exact place that Smirnov claimed that he was meeting this guy, it turns out that there was literally a crypto conference going on there. Here's the Easter egg. One of the key figures in September 2017 crypto Ukraine conference was Kostash, Sergei Milan's friend. We'll skip that, doesn't matter. Smirnov told the FBI that he and Ostapenko met Zlochevsky in Vienna a couple of months after the meeting with Burisma in Kiev, with Associate 2 and Zlochevsky's daughter. I focused here on the relative chronology. The Kiev meeting was in September 2017. The 1023 cited in the indictment reported that Smirnov recalled that the Vienna meeting took place around the time that Biden made a public statement about Shokin being corrupt and that he should be fired, removed from office. The FBI placed the Vienna meeting in late 2016, or late 2015, 2016. But watch the P carefully as to what explicitly stated and what is assumed. So let's see what he says. CHS recalled the meeting took place around the time that public official one, who's Biden, made a public statement about the Ukrainian prosecutor general being corrupt and that he should be fired, removed from office. That's the famous Council on Foreign Relations speech after Biden was out of office. The indictment carefully examined travel by the key protagonists, but left out one important trip. They didn't discuss when, if ever, Smirnov and Ostapenov visited Vienna. Why not? If they never visited Vienna, why didn't Weiss include that as a false statement? Here's what I'm wondering, and it's just an idea. Placing the Kiev trip in September 2017, Smirnov's relative chronology would place his Vienna meeting with Zlochevsky if it happened in late 2017, January 2018. Does it lead anywhere? He thinks. On January 23, 2018, 3 months after Smirnov's trip to Kiev with Associate 2, Joe Biden gave his infamous speech. I was incorrect above. He gave his infamous speech about firing Shokin. The 1023 placed the meeting in Vienna at late 2015, 2016, based on their assumption that the Biden statement about Shokin, referred by Smirnov, was Biden's December 2015 demand for Shokin's resignation. This results in inconsistencies and the conclusion that Smirnov lied on the date. That's the key claim. He claimed to have met these people while Biden was in office in 2015 and 16. But what if he didn't say, I met them in 2015 and 16? What if he said, describe the situation, I met them after Biden gave his press conference where he said Shokin was corrupt. And the FBI wrote down, that's the 2015 December conference. But in reality, he was talking about the 2017 conference. But if Smirnov was referring to Biden's 2018, not 17. Biden's January 2018 speech, then the dates fall into place. The meeting in Kiev with Associate 2 and Burisma is then the well-attested September 2017 meeting and not some phantom doppelganger meeting in 2015. To be clear, I know little or nothing about Smirnov. I'm only trying to read the documents precisely. The more I think about it, it's plausible interpretation. Let's turn to the specific counts. Weiss said, using quotation marks, the defendants claim that in late 2015 and 16, during the Obama-Biden administration, he first met with Burisma official 2. But I don't see any direct statement by Smirnov that he met Burisma executives in late 2015 or 16. Maybe Smirnov did say that, but it's entirely possible, and even in my opinion probable, that those dates were calculated by the FBI working backwards from an interpretation. And here's the 1023. First meeting with Burisma executives in Kiev, Ukraine, 2015-16. In late 2015 or 16, during the Obama-Biden administration, CHS was first introduced to officials at Ukraine Natural Gas Burisma. Now, we'll get back to this. We'll finish this thread. Is this definitive proof that Smirnov didn't lie? I'm not saying that. But go back to this. Wouldn't it be nice if we had a videotaped interview with Smirnov? Wouldn't that be nice? Instead of just relying on the FBI, who may have an incentive to lie, or, as this author seems to be suggesting, what if they just assumed? What if it went like this? Smirnov was like, yeah, I remember that there was this speech on TV. And then like right after that, all of a sudden I met with, and they're like, oh, there was a speech Biden gave in 2015. That must be what he's saying. So he's saying in 2015-16 he met with these people. Then they check the records and it's like, no, you didn't, you lied, game over. But what if he meant, no, I meant the speech in 2017. That's the one I was talking about. How do we know? How reasonably would you prove this? If there's no recording, if this is the defense that Smirnov offers, what are they going to say? They'll just be like, no, our notes are accurate. you did say 2015-16? That's it. Oh, a Yakov Smirnov joke by Alley Cat there. Wow. Smirnov is... Okay. Smirnov is the confidential human source that has been arrested and claimed to have made up... He's the one who was the source that said, I sat in a meeting with Zlochevsky where he said he paid Joe Biden and Hunter Biden $5 million each for a bribe. Now he's been arrested. And the central evidence they have is, his claim is that he started meeting these people in 2015 and 16. But he's unable to provide any travel receipts that show that. To the contrary, they then have text messages, travel receipts, etc. that show that he was introduced to these people in Burisma later. So, for example, if they have a text message from 2017 saying, hi, nice to meet you. Thank you so much for agreeing to talk to us. We look forward to having a relationship with you, blah, 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 blah. In 2017, those sorts of text messages, and he's claiming, actually, I knew them all in 2015. That would sort of show that he's lying, because he has all these messages in 2017 saying, hey, nice to meet you. But if it's because the FBI mixed up the dates, because he didn't give a specific date and was just describing situations which they misinterpreted, of course we can't get his story. A judge let him out on bail, and then another judge said, nope, he's a flight risk, so he'll be in prison, or in jail, I guess, more specifically, until his court hearing. So until the trial, we have no idea what he'll say. Nor will he be able to compile evidence as if he would be if he was out of jail. How do we know? And again, when it came to the Flynn 302s, there were 2 agents that put 302s, and one of them had to admit that they put stuff down incorrectly. Thank you, Case. Now, I'm not saying, let me be quite clear here. I am not saying that this is what occurred. I'm not. Smirnov could absolutely be a liar. He could be. But we haven't even heard a trial. We haven't even heard his side of the issue. And we're already saying, not only does this prove he's a Russian agent and he's a liar, but it also proves the entire impeachment thing's a sham and Burisma's out the window and all. How does it prove any of that? Furthermore, outside the scope of that, why the hell isn't the FBI required to videotape these things? We just have to rely on them. And that's, even if you assume they're not corrupt, which I do not do, but even if you assumed that, they can make mistakes. Now, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think so. For example, because I never knew this, I was shocked back in 2017 or so when I learned this. When I was like, what are all these what's a 302? What's a 1023? A 1023 is a statement by a confidential human source. So someone that the FBI is paying as an inside man to give them information. A 302 is in the process of an FBI investigation, them interviewing someone that's a suspect. That's a 302. And I was shocked when the Flynn 302, all this talk of Flynn's 302s, and what did Flynn really say that justified charging him, and what was the lie? Let's hear the tape. There is no tape. There's no tape. It's just their notes. That's it. I mean, imagine that, take politics out of it. Let's say the FBI is investigating the mob, and one of the FBI agents is paid off by the mob, and they're doing the investigation. Who's to say they don't intentionally fuck their notes up? That's what we're relying on? Let's finish this. I don't see any direct statement by Smirnov that he met Burisma executives in 2015 or 16. Maybe Smirnov did say it. It's entirely possible. And even probable those dates were calculated by the FBI working backwards from an assumption. Similarly, Weiss's charge relating to the Vienna meeting depends on the interpretation of the Biden speech, cited by Smirnov as being the December 9th, 2015 speech in the Rada, rather than the January 23rd, 2018 speech to the CFR. Similarly, the defendant's claims he met with public official 1 only 1 or 2 months later, around the time public official 1 made a public statement about the Ukrainian prosecutor being corrupt and that he should be fired, removed from office, which occurred in December 9th, 2015. Notice this doesn't say he's saying, I met him on December 9th, 1 month after December 9th, 2015. He's describing a situation, which makes sense. Think about it. If you're talking about something that happened 3-4 years ago, you might not remember the specific date. You might not even... I'll tell you right now, maybe I have dementia like Joe Biden. I can't remember specific years of certain things. Someone might be like, hey, you remember when your friends from the debate team, when you guys rented that cabin in the woods and you had a lot of fun? What year was that? I'd be like, oh, shit. And this is how I would do it. This is how I would remember something. I remember it was right after we got married. So we got married in 2014. I know that. So it had to be the summer of 2014. That's how I would do it. But when I'm retelling that story, this is how I would tell it. So I remember we went to our honeymoon and then we came back and we had like a month, and then we went to this. Now imagine that instead of a honeymoon, it was something that could be ambiguous. I remember it was when the Steelers won the Super Bowl. Okay, 2008? Or when was the other one they won? See what I mean? You see how it would be confused? That's how normal people talk. You don't have the specific dates, most people. The allegations against him, Aftershock, is that they proved that he was lying because he said, I had these meetings at these certain dates, and they were able to go through travel records, text messages, etc. to prove that he never met these officials at the dates that he's claiming. What this is saying is, but did he say, I met them in 2015? Or did he say, I met them a couple months after Biden's speech saying Shokin should get fired? And then the FBI says, Biden's speech in December where he said Shokin should be fired. But he may have been talking about Biden's January 2018 speech when he said Shokin should be fired. In which case he's not lying because he has receipts that shows he was where he's saying he was, allegedly, and he had been used. He had been used as an informant since, I believe, 2012 and was considered highly trustworthy according to the FBI, and even Jamie Raskin said that. Let's continue. So you can see what he's saying here is, so again, look at this. This is Weiss saying that he lied. Similarly, the defendant's claims that he met with Burisma official 1 or 2 months later around the time that public official 1 is Joe Biden, made a public statement of Shokin being corrupt and that he should be fired, removed from office, which occurred in December 9th, 2015. In that meeting, Burisma official 1 admitted that he had paid the Bidens $5 million, referring to then Prosecutor General's investigation of Burisma and to deal with the then Prosecutor General, were false, as the defendant knew. How did he know they were false? How would you prove that that was a lie? How would you prove that that statement was a lie? If you're the FBI, or if you're Weiss, how do you prove that? He says, about a month or two after Biden's speech, I sat down with Zlochevsky, and Zlochevsky said, I paid Biden $5 million to fire Shokin. What are the ways that you could prove that? Because again, the charge isn't he was mistaken. The charge is he lied. So how would you prove that? Well, here's some ways you could prove it. If you have statements from him elsewhere saying, I made that up, that would be proof of a lie. Other than that, how would you do it? How would you do it? Can anyone tell me? In what way would you go about trying to prove? How would you investigate this claim? Biden, I'll turn my hat. I'm Smirnov. I'm not going to do an accent, but Biden gave this speech about firing Shokin. And then 2 months later, I was talking to Zlochevsky, and Zlochevsky's like, yeah, man, I paid Biden $5 million to fire that dude. So now I'm the FBI, and I'm like, okay, how am I going to investigate this claim? What are some of the ways that I would investigate to see if this is a true statement? Well, I would, try to talk to other witnesses and things like that. But the first thing I would want to do is like, well, let's start with the bare minimum of facts. Was Smirnov, the person telling us this, can we prove that he was in the area where he's claiming this meeting happened? For example, if he has a passport that shows at the time he claims he was meeting Zlochevsky in Ukraine, and this passport proves no, for 4 months he was in Hawaii on vacation, that would seem to suggest that he's either misremembering or he lied. Right? So that's what you would do. You would start saying, we're going to look at your passport. We're going to look at potential plane tickets. We'll look at text messages. We'll look at GPS data to see if we could ping where you were a month or two after Biden's speech. Anyone disagree? That's what you would start. That's how you would start off. Correct? That doesn't seem controversial, right? So if you look and you say, okay, Biden's speech was in 2015. Where was Smirnov a month or two later? Oh, he wasn't there. His records don't show that he was there. In fact, we have text messages later seeming to be his introduction to Burisma. Therefore, he lied. But the problem is, what if he was talking about the 2018 meeting, or speech, and you assume he was talking about the 2015 speech? Aftershock says, ask him what speech he's talking about. But how would that go in a conversation? Remember, this is a confidential human source. He's not under investigation when he's giving this statement in 2020. He's just talking like he always does, probably weekly to his handler. So if he says, yeah, Biden gave this speech talking about firing Shokin, and then a month or two later, you're probably not in the context of that if the FBI going, wait, what speech? Because there were several. You're just going to take the information down, then you go back to the office and you go, okay, let's see what we got. To be clear, the closing part of the thread is speculation. I welcome criticism. Exactly. Kevin Kleinsmith lies about Carter Page and Crossfire Hurricane were much, much worse than the unproven allegation against Smirnov, that he got dates wrong. Why would Smirnov be held without bail? Picking up the thread once again this morning, according to the proposed chronology, the Vienna meeting between Zlochevsky, Smirnov, and Ostapenko took place around the time of Joe's notorious CFR speech on January 23, 2018, a date which occurs in Weiss's narrative without even mentioning Joe's speech. On January 23rd, 2018, Associate 2 flew from Los Angeles to London. So he knows that there was this second speech by Joe Biden. Paragraph 30 is based on documents, not the distorted chronology of the 1023. Associate 2 met Smirnov in London on January 23rd, 2018, the very day that Joe Biden made his notorious boastful speech. Smirnov reportedly told Associate 2 that he had received a call from Zlochevsky about potential business. So Smirnov and Associate 2 made a second trip to Kiev. The first was in September 2017. This time the meeting with Przarsky in English. Once again, Burisma wasn't interested in crypto. As mentioned previously, the indictment, otherwise very detailed about travel, did not contain any information on Smirnov's trip to Vienna, and in particular around the time of Joe's speech to the CFR. However, we now know that Smirnov was in London January 23rd, 2018. Here's another amazing doppelganger. The document-based narrative, paragraph 31, reports Smirnov and Associate 2 in London in January 2018, when Smirnov reported a call from Zlochevsky. The questionable 1023 reported Smirnov and Associate 1 in London in 2019 when Zlochevsky called. The January 2018 call from Zlochevsky was received when Smirnov and Associate 2 were in Hotel Baglioni in London. At the time of the 2019 call, questioned by Weiss, from Zlochevsky, Smirnov met Associate 1 near Harrods, a short walk from Hotel Baglioni. Conclusions. Let's review the chronology defenses to counts in paragraph 57. 57A. Smirnov did not claim he met Przarsky in late 2015 and 16. He met Przarsky in September 2017 in Kiev. Meeting was in Russian, and presumably Smirnov stands by his claim. Associate 2 didn't speak Russian. So here's what they're saying was the lies. One, that he met in 2015. And this guy's saying, no, I think that what he was saying was 2017. Second, Smirnov arguably met Zlochevsky in Vienna around the time of Joe's speech to CFR in January 2018, not December 2015, and Smirnov stands by his claim. The defendants claim that he met with Burisma officials 1 or 2 months later, when the speech occurred in December 2015. But if it actually was the speech in 2018, they have evidence that actually he did see, that we don't know if he was in Vienna or not, but we know that right after that speech, he took a call from Zlochevsky in January 2018, and for some reason they don't include any documentation about possible travel to Vienna. Third, Smirnov's telephone conversation with Zlochevsky in late February 2017 was reported to the FBI in real time, and noted that in the March 1st, 2017 1023, which mentioned references to Hunter Biden but said they were not relevant, Smirnov stands by his comments. Smirnov argues that the 2020 1023 is a garbled version of his telephone call with Zlochevsky while in London on January 23rd, 2018 with Associate 2, when Joe made a notorious CFR speech. No wonder Zlochevsky thought Smirnov was an oracle. The defendants claim that in 2019 he was present when Associate 1 called Burisma Official 1, and Burisma Official 1 stated that he did not send any funds directly to the big guy, and that Burisma Official 1 stated it would take them 10 years to find the records. And here you see, after a aforementioned 2016 call, CHS had no interactions with Zlochevsky and Burisma whatsoever until 2019. In 2019, he met Ostapenko. What they're saying is, the call, we know that there was a call in 2017. And then Andrew McCarthy, he links to Andrew McCarthy, talks about, why would you burn a confidential human source like this? Now think of what they did here. Let's say you are someone, keep in mind what a confidential human source is. Have you ever seen like Donnie Brasco, right? Where people go undercover in the mob and in gangs and shit like that, right? Confidential human source is very similar, except instead of like a local gang, it's like international. Like, oh, they're talking to characters in the Chinese government or in the Russian government or oligarchs that the United States intel community has their ear out listening for because they want to see potential crimes and things like that. Oftentimes, not only do they pay the confidential human source, but they give them liberties to break the law. So if you're snorting coke, they ain't going to charge you for that. Why would you be willing to talk to the FBI if you're one of these people? So if you're Smirnov in your 2012 and you're approached like, hey, we'll pay you money if you, some of the stuff you're picking up, if you let us know. Why would you say yes? Well, because you want money and you feel safe. You don't think that the oligarchs, gangsters, etc. that you're ratting out, basically, you're spying on, you don't think they're going to find out. You think that you're going to be protected as a source. Why would you burn that source so publicly? Why would you do that? Presumably the FBI, we hear about it all the time. We're in Russiagate 2.0 now. Presumably the FBI wants confidential human sources that are connected to Russian oligarchs, correct? If you were one of them right now, how would you feel? How would you feel? And for what? Misremembered dates? Of course it'll disincentivize future CHSs. But it doesn't matter because Orange Man bad. That's what it's all about. They'll burn everything. They don't give a fuck. I'm going to end here by midnight, right? Let me reiterate. Everything that thread I just read you is speculation as admitted by the author. And I'm admitting that it's speculation. But it's entirely plausible. And yet people have made up their mind. know what the defense will be. He may plead guilty. Want to bet they got some pressure on him? Maybe he's afraid he won't come home ever, even after he serves his jail sentence. If he fights what the FBI and the intel agencies are saying. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case whatsoever, that he pleads guilty. If you were a CHS dealing with Russian oligarchs and shit like that, would you feel comfortable that the intel agencies are going to give you a fair shake? Do you feel comfortable fighting them? How many people do this? They turn the screws on people around. Michael Cohen. What's the woman's name? You see her all over the place on X now. She was Trump's lawyer. Now all she does, Trump's the worst. Trump's a bad man. DeSantis, blah, blah, blah. Michael Cohen the same way. Why? Because they're going to fucking ruin their lives unless they squeal like a pig. And it doesn't matter if the squealing's true or not. Oh, yes, Donald Trump's the worst man. You even hear this about rando January 6 people. The judge makes them, oh my God, Trump misled me. Oh, no. Yep, Igor Dushenko and Charles Dolan both lied to the FBI. Allegedly. Maybe not, though. Charles Dolan was accused of lying to the FBI, which was a hilarious case because the lie was that he didn't tell them he was working for Hillary Clinton. And so the left celebrated when he was found not guilty, which would imply that he did tell the FBI he was working for Hillary, which means the FBI lied. But that's a victory. Jenna Ellis, that's right. Not much sense for it. Doing good. My computer crashed during my debate, so this is an after-debate stream. Who was it? There was someone recently, maybe it was Smirnov, where I saw prominent left-wing media people that were like, oh man, he'll flip on Trump. Every time someone says that, when you hear a Democrat going, oh, this, what's his name? Ralph Nader, Trump's assistant at Mar-a-Lago, that they charged. Oh, he's going to flip. Jana Ellis, she'll flip on Trump. Michael Cohen, oh, here we go. They're going to flip on Trump. Oh, Smirnov, he's going to flip on Trump. And then they'll get Giuliani, and then he'll flip on Trump. Maybe, maybe not. But you know what that's an admission of? I think I did fine. I'd give myself an 8 to an 8.5 out of 10. Basically, my opponent didn't know any of the specific details and said, I got him to admit that he won't believe Biden did anything impeachable unless Biden has a written confession. So, I'd say that's as clear-cut of a victory as you could expect. What that is, when they're saying all these people could flip on Trump, that's a tacit admission that they know that the normal way to go after someone, the best chance to get a big dog, is to go after the little people, charge them with crimes, and then try to get them to flip. That's how things are done. Want to go after the head of the mafia? What do? You go on the street and you find the guys that are selling drugs that work for the mafia. Then you say, we're going to charge you with all these crimes unless you tell us who your supplier is. And then you work your way up the chain. That doesn't always work, but that's your best chance. I know that. You know that. Everyone watching knows that. Anyone with half a brain understands that. And yet, and let me be clear, the FBI is very good at doing this, and all the people surrounding Trump. They'll throw them all in jail. How many people were charged under the fake electors scheme? 17? Remember you had all their pictures, mugshots? Very good at that. They're very good at going after everyone surrounding Trump. How about Hillary? How good were they there? Oh, they gave everyone immunity. But the Democrats were like, that's how things are done. That's the normal process. You give everyone immunity. You say, hi, you deleted subpoenaed evidence? Yep. And you know that's a felony. Mm-hmm. Well, we're going to give you immunity. Thank you very much. Now, would you like to say anything bad about Hillary Clinton? Not at all. I did it all myself. Okay, thank you very much, sir. That's how they treated the Hillary team. And so every one of these people you see going, oh boy, here we go, another guy to flip on Trump. What they're really admitting to you is they know there's a double standard. They know it was bullshit what happened in the Hillary investigation. They know the investigations, or lack thereof, into Biden were bullshit. They know it. They don't give a fuck. That's what they're saying. All right. 8 minutes, and I gotta be out of here. Go get shit done. Now, tomorrow evening, theoretically, I should stream because I'll be home, but I might take tomorrow evening off. I go home tomorrow, and then Saturday, and then Sunday morning, I'm right back into work. Or tomorrow's Thursday, so I get home tomorrow afternoon. I get Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then I'm back into work Sunday. So I might just spend a night with the family. Maybe my son's really into the Super Mario Brothers movie, so maybe I'll watch that again. I don't know. But if there's one overarching take to take from tonight, just know this. These people are not good faith. I don't even know if that's the right word. There are certainly people that are just blatantly, by stereotypical definition, bad faith. Like, they're full of shit and they know it. I don't know that that's what pondering is. Pondering might be so biased and so partisan that he subconsciously forces himself to believe ridiculously stupid shit. After Chuck says, SCOTUS will only answer one question, whether and is so to what extent does a former president enjoy presidential immunity from criminal prosecution from conduct alleged involved in official acts during his tenure in office? In my opinion, it's a strong case that Trump will win. If not, the sentence in order to past presidents be erected, no. So I assume they'll probably roll in the crimes that are heinous enough to charge the presidents on. They're evil. I don't know. I have difficulty. I understand there are legal theories that suggest if you say that Trump's responsible for crimes while he's president afterwards, then you could say Obama was for drone striking an American. I get that, right? But it also seems to be a stretch to say that, like, Biden tomorrow could just, like, go and grab a flamethrower and just scorch everyone in the press corps and be like, wow, it's not what we could do. He's president. I don't know. Now, there might be an argument. The best argument for Trump is probably as follows. The prosecution of crimes can occur, but only with a successful conviction of impeachment. In other words, if Joe Biden goes out with a flamethrower and does that, then he would theoretically be impeached, removed from office by the Senate, and then could be criminally charged. That's probably the best argument. I'm going to tell you right now, I am ill-equipped in looking at any historical references or anything of that nature to even begin to weigh in on that. I just don't know. It's something that I'll have to delve into, So, yeah, I think almost everyone would agree that a pardon's ironclad. That's exactly right, XN. That's exactly what's going on. Chuck Schumer, again. I say this all the time. It's so cliched right now. It amazes me how much shit gets admitted just out in the open, and we see it, and we just move on from it. 2016, Chuck Schumer admits on national television on Rachel Maddow's show, Trump shouldn't criticize the intel agencies because they'll find 6 ways of Sunday at getting back at him. The president, which he was the president-elect, Donald Trump, theoretically the most powerful man in the Western world, has to be fearful and cannot criticize the people that work for the agencies that he's in charge of because they will take him down. That's what Chuck Schumer said. The opposition to Trump on national television, and no one batted an eye. And now, since he said that, we've seen incident after incident after incident after incident. Every time they go after Trump, it's as hard as possible. Every time they go after his opponents, it's as easy as possible. Every single time. Sorry, phone rang. That's what likely's to happen. I think that Biden, I still predict Biden won't be the nominee, and he will pardon him. He'll pardon Hunter and a bunch of other people on his way out. But that's, if I was president, I would. I'd be like, on my last day, I'd be like, I pardon myself for anything. Collision says, it was obvious Trump was a corrupt loser who was doing crimes, and that eventually the three letters would decide to come after him. That's what it is. That's what Schumer meant. Yep. When he specifically said Trump's dumb to criticize them, that's what he was talking about. And of course, this is the delusional left. The left sees 92 indictments against Trump, and they say, proves Trump's the most corrupt guy ever. That's the assumption they start with. Just like tonight with Pondering. Thank you so much, Zen's Forehead, for the super chat. I really appreciate it, man. I'm talking to Pondering. What's the level of evidence, not even for a crime, just for impeachment? What's the level of evidence that you would need in this Burisma case with Biden? A written confession, he says. Or I say a written confession, he says, yeah. You don't think Joe Biden's a corrupt guy? You don't think Hillary Clinton's a corrupt lady? You don't think Bill Clinton was a corrupt guy? You don't think Bush was a corrupt guy? You don't think Mark Cuban's a corrupt guy? You don't think that Bill Gates is a corrupt guy? You don't think that Elon Musk is a corrupt guy? You want to take down people that do shit like that? Fine, take them down. But you don't selectively pick out one. For example, there you go. You see? It's literally the same fucking NPCs over and over. Okay, Biden sucks too! He sucks balls! You don't have to worship Trump! Right. Unlike your fucking pea brain that can't understand this, you fucking low IQ, absolute fucking moron, I don't give a shit about Trump and Biden. I give a shit about a two-tier system. So constantly what happens is, I'm like, here's evidence of a two-tiered system. Then some fucking big brain like you go, but that doesn't mean Trump's a good guy. No shit. I'm not saying Trump's a good guy. I'm not saying. In fact, in the very debate tonight, I said, if you want to start arresting people for mishandling classified evidence, fine. No problem. Throw Trump in jail. But throw Mike Pence and Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton and the people on Clinton's team and Joe Biden, throw them in jail too. And then big brains like you will be, but that's not a reason. That's not a reason to tell Donald Trump he's corrupt. Because I'm not in a cult. I understand that individual politicians will come and go, and the institutions engaging in a two-tier system and allowing those that support them and agree with them and finance them and want to increase their budget to get away with crimes while going after the people that challenge that means that we're guaranteed to have a corrupt system. You're a fucking idiot that's orange man bad. Orange man bad. And so my answer to everything will be, whatever, as long as Trump goes down too. Yeah, Hillary was bad. Yeah, Biden was bad. Yeah, Pence is bad. Yeah, Obama's bad. They're all bad, but Trump's bad too. You fucking idiot. No, I can tell you don't give a shit because you're screaming like an idiot. I care. I'm not saying I don't care about anything. I care about the two-tier system. You care about orange man bad. I've literally seen fucking idiots like you over and over and over, and it's so tiresome. You have nothing. How many times will I go onto a... dozens of times I've had debates with people. Oh, there's no two-tier system. There's none. Pondering had to admit tonight. Yeah, it looks like a double standard. Had to admit it. How many times has this happened? Hillary Clinton, you think obstruction of justice is a big deal? Oh, absolutely, it's a big deal. And it should be charged? Absolutely. Yep. And not complying with subpoenas? Yep, it should be charged. Okay, Hillary's team destroyed subpoenaed evidence. And you know what after we go through it and I prove that I'm right, this is what they'll say. Well, I guess they should have charged Hillary too. Right, but they didn't. That's the fucking point. Okay, now that you agree she should have been charged and she wasn't, you acknowledge it's a two-tier system? Well, and that's what this idiot does. It's their way because they can't win the argument, but they don't give a fuck. This collision guy, just like Brianna Wu, just like dime a dozen, all the people I debate that do this, they don't give a fuck. They only care about orange man bad. They like the establishment order. That's what they like. They think Trump's Hitler or racist or the most evil, corrupt man ever. So whatever. Do you think this guy gives a... He don't give a fuck. He don't care about Hillary Clinton. He don't care about Joe Biden. Guarantee it. I don't give a fuck. Lock them all up. You can lock every senator up. I don't care. As long as Donald Trump goes down. That's what matters. We'll find 50 more people to be senators, but Trump must go down. He has to. No, it's not that everyone that disagrees with me is the same. There are people I enjoy debating, right, who actually try to make credible arguments. It's that the behavior that you have exhibited is the same behavior that's exhibited by those I aforementioned. My argument is, there's a double standard. Your argument is, but Trump's evil and corrupt. I say, that's fine. Let's look at the evidence that you say Trump's evil and corrupt and that he's committed crimes. Let's see if the FBI applies an equal standard when his opponents do that. You say, I don't give a shit, take the opponents too. Then my argument is, okay, then why aren't you protesting the double standard from these institutions? Literally have had this exact same people that follow my audience, 50 times, 60, 70 times. How many times have I had this conversation with either people in the chat or people that I'm streaming with? I'm more entertaining when I'm screaming, but it is a point that you're making. How am I worshiping Trump when I'm talking about the double standard? That's what you said. Joe Biden sucks, but that doesn't mean we should worship Trump. Okay, who said that? Go ahead. You're accusing me of arguing against points no one said. Your original claim was that Joe Biden sucks, but it doesn't mean you worship Trump. Show me worshiping Trump. Go ahead. In fact, I've argued against Trump and Trump policies far more fucking successfully than some moron like you has. Let me guess. You protested being a lib. DeSantis guy? Is that who you are? Oh, it's okay. You have a kid, so you're used to crying, screaming, piss-pant humans. Well, it sounds like that maybe you should have conversations with your kid. How old is he or she? 3, 4? Oh, fuck. That's too late. That already outpaces you. The lowest tier fucking IQ you can imagine. It's the cope. It's the cope. The cope's turned... Does anyone see? Has this guy made 1 point? It's the cope. You worship Trump. You worship Trump. You go back video after video after video of me criticizing Trump for the budget, criticizing Trump for some of the dumb shit he said, criticizing Trump over COVID, criticizing Trump over the lockdowns, criticizing Trump for bombing Syria, criticizing Trump for how he's running his campaign. You worship Trump. You worship Trump because you say, yeah, it's fine if you're going to charge Trump with crimes as long as it's equally applied to the people that are his opponents as well. That means you worship Trump. You worship Trump. That's what that means. Trump worshiper. There he is. Trump worshiper. Oh. Great, great. Any last words there? Collusion? And there we have it, an admission. Orange man bad. There you go. Great parting words, Collision. You're right. Thank you so much. It took all that time just to get there. We know. Orange man bad. I'm brain dead. Orange man bad. Bye, bud. I don't even think that guy was a lefty. He criticized being called a leftist lib. Probably DeSantis supporter. That's my guess. Unless he comes back under a new handle, we won't know, though. Orange man is bad! You're right, I am brain dead. Hey, you said it, man. Thanks. I don't worship Trump. Sorry. You know how, like, we talked about this last night in Let's Be Frank show, right? Like, Joy Reid, who's a racist. So then she assumes, if you view everything through the lens of racism, everything. For example, let's say a regular situation occurs. Do you ever see these drive-thrus now that have 2 lanes? Anyone know what I'm talking about? You timed out in Crucible chat. No! See you, Aftershock. So, like, I had this happen the other day. There's the 2-lane drive-thru, right? And so you pull up, and then there's usually only one person working, so they'll do the other lane and then you, and they try to go. Well, what happened was, I pulled up, and I'm waiting at the speaker, and there's a car in the other lane, and that car leaves, and then another car pulls up, and the person on the speaker took the car that pulled up after me's order first. You know what? People that view everything through the lens of race would say, that's racism. That's right. They didn't do it. I'm black. That's why. Oh, there it is. Racism. There are people like that. Remember when Oprah said she went to some fancy, like Louis Vuitton or something, and they were like, may I help you? And she knew that they meant that she didn't belong there because she's black. Those people assume that you think the same way. They think that everything is racist, and therefore you must feel the same way. So if you're white, that means you're viewing everything through the lens, and it's racist when you do it because you're white. No, he didn't get removed for Orange Man Bad. He got removed for being a bad faith troll. No, I have a tick that I move my head around a lot. It is a little loose, I guess, if I'm honest. But, that's how the TDS people are. Everything is Trump. Everything. Everything's Trump. Trump evil. Trump bad. Biden's in office. I've had arguments with people where I'll be like, Biden's policy, and they'll be like, Trump, 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 Trump. And I'm like, okay, but Trump's not in office. Biden's here right now. No, Trump, 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 Trump. Trump, Trump, Trump. That's all it is. That's all they care about. They bought the narrative. Trump is evil. Trump is the worst. Trump is Hitler. Trump's a racist. Trump's a Nazi. They bought it. And so because all they think about all day, every day is Trump, they assume anyone that disagrees with them is doing the same. Except they love Trump. That's their assumption. So this guy could hear me saying, even though I was quite clear all throughout the night, as I am almost every night, I don't really give a shit about Trump. Trump was my third pick to win the primary. I wanted Vivek, then I wanted DeSantis, and then Trump was probably a pretty distant third. But what I'm most concerned about is the double standard in the treatment. For example, Aaron Mattei, Glenn Greenwald, Jimmy Dore, Matt Taibbi, Michael Schellenberger. All of these people were Democrats. They are left-wingers. And yet they're protesting what they see as a double standard in the treatment of Trump versus other people, particularly his opponents. Are they also Trump worshipers? Yes! That's what these people call them. But I didn't vote for Trump. I criticized Trump. I wanted Trump to lose. Doesn't matter. You're a Trump worshiper. And it's not just limited to the left. It's also true of people that support other right-wing candidates. I'll give you an example. Someone who calls themselves a conservative and a Republican. Connor from Counterpoints. Same shit. He is obsessed with Trump. A conservative willing to get paid not by just Democrats, but by progressive Democrats with the stated goal of not only helping Democrats win elections, including down ballot, but to make the Democratic Party more progressive. And you're a conservative, but you're helping and getting paid by progressives to help the Democratic Party win and become more progressive. Why? Orange Man bad. That's why. Because Orange Man bad. He's bad. Now, I like Connor, don't get me wrong, but that's what's happening. And I want to hang out with Destiny's audience. I know what's going on. It's okay. But just like this guy comes in, I bet dollars and donuts a DeSantis supporter. And I like DeSantis more than Trump. And that's the treatment I get. Well, you're a Trump worshiper. Because you're correctly pointing out the corruption against him. Oh, how adjusting's a sign of genius? There you go. I'm killing it then. All right, I'm out of here. I've stayed 11 minutes longer than I wanted. It's true. Go ahead, XNV. So you're critical of me banning that person from the challenge. That's what you're saying? Go ahead. So you said, why did he get banned? I said, for being a bad faith troll. Says, anyone could be a bad faith troll at any time. It doesn't really mean anything. It's true, it doesn't mean anything. Okay, and next. Do you have any other suggestions? Please, let's get a list of the suggestions for how I should run my show. Go ahead. Maybe it upsets you that I ban people because I get tired of hearing the same fucking arguments over and over again. It's fair enough. That's a valid criticism. Totally accept that criticism. Completely fair. My response to you is, fuck off, start your own show. Go ahead. But go ahead, let's hear some other criticisms you have as well. Please, go on. It seems to have affected you. Perhaps I'm not the right show for you to be viewing. After all, this is a hobby of mine. But no, it seems like maybe we'll stick around for a couple minutes. Go ahead, XN, please. Any other things? My clothing, perhaps my microphone, camera, the way I talk. What is it that you would like to criticize next? Go ahead. I'll ask you, when you do a show, how do you moderate? When is your decision on when you could kick someone or not? Please, go on. I think I'd probably wear it slightly to the side. Suppressing others seems ineffective. That's true. Let's do a test, shall we, XN? How about I suppress you, and we'll see how effective it is. What do you think? We'll see how it goes. Come back in 2 years under another account, and we'll see if I'm happier, if my channel's bigger. Let's do a little test. How's that work? Seems like a hypothesis. You want to test? You don't like idiots. How do you think you'd do in a debate against me, XN? How do you think that would work out? After all, I'm an idiot. How do you think it would work out for you? I seem to be a really dumb person, right? Right? Just an idiot. Now, sir. I think it's ludicrous of you to ban people that are obviously being bad faith trolls accusing you of something that's blatantly obviously wrong. That's ludicrous to ban them. You must be an idiot for banning them. Free speech enthusiast here, right? By the way, what's your channel? That's your Twitch? How many times do you stream? Have you ever banned someone? Just curious. I like people who have opinions. I mean, it's not like this is my brand. I literally do this as a hobby. But please, go on, tell me. I used to have, back in my college days, I used to have people at my house, too. And we would drink and have kegs and stuff. Sometimes I kick people out of the house. Would you like to weigh in on that as well? Oh, you just threw up on your couch. That's no reason to kick someone out. That seems to be suppressing them. And that doesn't seem like it'll be effective in the long haul. Right? I don't ban people for simple disagreements they're having with me. If they're going to be bad faith and a troll and blatantly say shit like, yeah, Orange Man bad, I'm brain dead, you worship Trump, then fuck off. I engaged with them to the extent that I wanted to, and then I banned them. I think I'm quite judicious in not only not banning people that are generally disagreeing with me, but interacting with them more than probably most streamers. In fact, not only do I interact with them in chat disproportionately to the people that agree with me, but almost always offer to give them a chance to come on and debate me live if they like. Anything else to say, XN? Any other criticisms? Slightly less annoying, but only slightly so, than the bad faith shitheads. Is the, but you can't ban anyone, don't do that, don't ban anyone on your chat, don't do it. I think I did quite well counter-trolling, and then I got tired of it. It's like I'm getting tired of you. One of my weak points that I talk about a lot is oftentimes I get distracted with that sort of shit, then I spend my entire time focusing on that, instead of focusing on the content that I wanted to focus on. So it's easier for me when someone's trolling to just be like, be gone. Did you hear that, Alley Cat? I'm so tired of these, like, it's like, you know, I think Mike Cernovich has too quick of a trigger on banning people on his X and stuff like that, but I understand where it comes from. I'm so fucking tired of I'm tired of the trolls, I'm tired of the same bullshit arguments over and over again, right? And I'm also tired of the people that, I got opinions. I'm going to weigh in. I'm going to weigh in on who you should and shouldn't allow on your channel. I have opinions on it. Really? Please, tell me your extensive experience. Please, go on. Point me to your show. YouTube channel? Do a lot of live streaming? Twitch? Rumble? Kick? Where you at? Love to see it. By all means, I would love to see an example of how I should be doing things on my show. Please. Show me how it's done. Clearly, I'm an idiot, as you say. Why, just last night, I was telling my mods, don't ban that person. They're just having a disagreement with me. Yep, that's right, Luigi Strikes. And eventually I started banning people for that. Political person guy handles trills well. Is he streaming now? Maybe you should check out his channel. Sounds like a cool guy. Hop on over, right? If you're watching me because you think I'm perfect, I hate to burst your bubble. I'm not. I engaged with the troll quite a while when I said, be gone. And if that's something that you just can't get over, that you really need to get off your chest, then I'm not going to ban you for that. I'll make fun of you like I'm doing here. But might I seriously recommend not tuning into my show? Because I'm afraid that you'll see things like that happen occasionally. And I don't want you to get upset. So, by all means, political person guy sounds probably a great streamer, probably better than me, probably has way more people that watch him. Go be another person in there. I'm sure he interacts with you a lot. I'm sure he answers questions. I'm sure he does things perfectly. And that's great. Maybe it's his job. Maybe not. Maybe he's better than me in every possible way. Maybe he's a fantastic debater. Maybe he would run me through the ringer. Maybe he knows exactly how to deal with everyone in chat. Sounds great. Political person guy. Check out his channel, everyone. This guy's the best. He does things perfectly. So you can head on over there. Right, XN? That's where it's at. What is my, if someone keeps saying, no, you worship Trump, and I'm like, here's a bunch of reasons I don't worship Trump. Nah, you worship Trump. Here's another bunch of reasons that I don't worship Trump. Nah, you worship Trump. Okay, now I'm going to make fun of you because I don't worship Trump. Nah, you worship Trump. Okay, fuck off, you're gone. Well, thank you so much. Now, XN, I've taken your advice to heart, right? Taken it to heart. Now, let me give you some advice. Your advice to me as a streamer, taken to heart. Let me give you some advice as a chatter. You have no say or no value of an opinion to me if you're going to be sort of critical in a way, claiming and then saying that I'm an idiot and things like that. I value people's constructive input, and if people want to tell me not to ban people and I want to make fun of them in response, that's fine. But maybe to keep going with that, particularly calling people the streamer that has the power to ban you an idiot, maybe not the wisest move to do if you want to continue to seek productive conversation within the chat in particular communities. Because what might happen is you might get banned, or people might not take what you say seriously. That could be what happened. What I'd recommend is follow someone like Nylord there. He's great. Follow him. He knows how to do the chat. He knows how to do it. So watch him. That's how you chat. Watch someone like What Is Your IP? He knows how to chat. They're on live right now. Go ahead, watch them. Just sit silently for like the next 20 times that you're on here and watch them, the good people. TL, there's another one. They know how to chat. That's how you have a productive conversation. Right? So I'm not going to ban you, but I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you the last word, and then I'm going to make sure that I mute you, so I can't see what you're saying. But you can continue to have productive conversations with those. Is that a good compromise? Is that better than outright banning you? Go ahead, we'll give you the last word. He made fun of him for balding. Now, Nylord, what you got to do now is like XN. Now you got to go there and bitch about the moderation and... Hey, everybody. I don't have a channel, and I haven't built anything, and I don't have like opinions that I'm out there putting out there or anything like that. But let me tell you how I'd run shit if I did. You know, it's great. Like, you're watching on Twitch. This might blow your fucking mind. You can start a Twitch channel right now. Hell, your computer or phone that you're watching on right now probably has a speaker and a camera. Go ahead. There it is. You know how to do it. Clearly. Bang on, man. I'll cheer you on. XN, when you're huge, when you're bigger than Joe Rogan, I'll be like, I knew him. He once bitched at me for banning a troll. I knew that guy. He probably thinks I'm a fuckhead. Hey, good for him. He killed it. Look, he has that guy on that was a troll to me, that Collision guy. Right, I'm giving you feedback now, XN, so I'm glad you can agree. So, all right, sir, thank you so much. Alrighty. Okay. That'll be the night for the stream. Maybe I get too tired and I get too pissy here at the end of the night. Oh, what was I used to have the guy. What was his name? My cousin. I forget what his name was. I debated him once. I didn't do so hot. He crushed me. Well, everyone, thank you so much for tuning in to the show. Let's see if there's anyone to raid. Aircraft Sparky's still on. What the hell's going on there? Raid him. I apologize I let you all down for banning a troll. Sorry about that. It was my bad. But, you know, can't all be perfect, so... what was I going to say? Yeah, I don't know if I'll be streaming tomorrow night. Maybe. If I'm doing it, it'll be around 8 p.m. Eastern. Sometime around there. I hope you enjoyed the debate. I'll try to get this debate uploaded. Let me see. I don't know where he would have sent it. He didn't send it. Let me check. Did he send it through Discord, maybe? I could rip it if not, as long as I have his permission. No, he didn't send the MP4. Okay. Alright, well, I'll try to get that debate up soon. Anyways, enjoy this raid of Aircraft Sparky. Sorry I got a little pissy there at the end of the night. I should have been in bed 2 hours ago, to be honest. Yeah, I've been trying to increase my output. I'm trying. Figure from going on Tim Pool's show, I should have a record before and afterwards. I don't know. Maybe that fuckhead I just muted has a point. Maybe I should be a little more chill if I'm trying to reach a bigger audience. But I do it for my amusement. And I was quite amused at banning that guy and then muting that other one. So, I don't know. For me it worked. Maybe not for you. Maybe not for those people. But I enjoyed it. I don't know. I waffle back and forth on it. And honestly, I'm probably a moody bitch. And late at night when I should be in bed. You know. Maybe I shouldn't be arguing with trolls. So, anyways, Aircraft Sparky will no doubt have an excellent show. Please enjoy that. Look for my upload of this debate whenever I get a chance to do it. Thank you all so much. I appreciate each and every one of you. Even the trolls. And hopefully I'll see you all soon. Thanks so much, and as always, have a good one.